And we're live. Welcome, YouTube, to the newest episode of Dark Tower Palaver. We are talking Wizard and Glass number 28. We're now in uncharted waters for all book clubs. I think last time we matched our highest total.
No, that was the time before.
Oh, it's 26 already?
26 was the highest, so last time was the... If I remember right, it is. I'll check during the intro.
Yeah, so, we're here, in nice dog days of summer as we're getting into now. So let's go ahead and hit the intro and get started.
The Dark Tower by Stephen King. The man in black fled across the desert, and the gunslinger followed. Go then. There are other worlds than these. Death, but not for you, gunslinger. It's time we had our own palaver, I think, and it's going to take a while.
And yet, dauntless, the slug horn to my lips I set, and blew. Child Roland to the Dark Tower came.
We are content, one from many. Let the palaver begin.
Hello and welcome to Dark Tower Palaver. This is our podcast covering Stephen King's magnum opus, the Dark Tower series. My name is Tad.
And I'm Peter.
And we're here for episode 28, or book club number 28 for Wizard and Glass. We're getting along. I think I forgot to do the percentages last time.
Yeah.
Let's see. Where's
No,
my...
you did it.
No, I think I forgot. I didn't even think I calculated.
Yeah, because you broke it down to say, like, we're going to be... If
Oh,
everything goes right,
that was our last round table.
Oh, that was on the round table.
So I'm just talking percentages. So last time when we ended our episode, we ended up at 71% for the whole book and 78% for Roland's backstory here. So I didn't even calculate it. So yeah, that was unfortunate. But what you're talking about, we'll get to in just a second.
Yeah.
So first of all, we'll dive on into the intro. There's no spoiler warning for these book clubs. We say where we're at or before. We don't jump ahead. We have a small spoiler section at the very end. Although, spoiler alert, there is not one today.
What?
Unless something pops up during the course of the conversation.
Which has happened before.
It does. Yeah, it does happen for sure. But then if you want to find us, you can find us on Apple Podcasts. You can stream us on Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, or any podcasting service of your choice. If you can do us a favor and subscribe, rate, and review us on any of those, we'd appreciate that. And then if you want to find us here at the live stream, we're over here at youtube.com/darktowerpalaver. And we go live every other week, every fortnight, as I like to say. So if you want to join the chat live and be part of the conversation in real time, you can do that over here. Of course, like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. Otherwise, YouTube will shock you with lightning teeth.
Yeah.
That's just the way it works. So, or if you want to watch in the future, you certainly can as well. If you want to drop comments in the future videos, you could always do that and chat along as well. You may not be part of the episode, but I will always see the comments and try to respond. Then next up, if you want to find the show notes, you can do that at darktowerpalaver.com. That is also the hub for all things Dark Tower Palaver. Is there someone in the chat?
No, just me.
Okay, I was testing.
I was testing to see if someone would respond.
Every once in a while, you'll see a chat that I won't.
Yeah.
It's not super common, but it does happen. So, but if you want to find the show notes at darktowerpalaver.com, it's also the hub for all things Dark Tower Palaver. There's no show notes for the book clubs, of course, but if you want to find links for all things Dark Tower Palaver, you can do that over there. You can support the show at patreon.com/darktowerpalaver. With that, at any level, you get access to our Discord server and our monthly hangouts. And then if you're at the highest level, you get a co-host an episode with us. If you want to contact the show, Peter can let you know the ways to do that.
Best way to reach us is through email. It's show@darktowerpalaver.com. And then you can find us on our social medias. We got Threads and Instagram. It's Dark Tower Palaver, all one word, no spaces. And then we have our Blue Sky. It's at darktowerpalaver.bsky.social. And then we still have our Twitter. It's at DarkTowerPod. That's at DarkTowerPod. And then Facebook.com/DarkTowerPalaver. And then pick up some merch. It's tpublic.com/users/DarkTowerPalaver. Get yourself a truth sticker. Hashtag Tad is terrible. Get a shirt. They come in different colors. They come in hats, pillows, phone cases.
Or you can just get the real logo, classic logo. I got that on my shirt here.
Right there.
Also, on your side, does it show like a ranking? The last couple episodes I've had a thing on my side.
Last time it did. This time it's still here. I'm number 1.
Yeah. Number 1 for now.
For now.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
We were mentioning it in the YouTube intro. If this is the first, like, the longest we've been, 26. Episode 26 was
the longest.
25
was
is how
for
many.
that was for book 3, right?
Wastelands did 25, so 26 with Wizard and Glass broke the record.
Okay.
So
all right.
We're a couple episodes past it.
Yeah, indeed. And then I think it was last episode, or it was the last book club actually. I was what do you call it? Kicking the can down the road a little bit while I was doing post production and getting the episode posted. Procrastinating, that's the right word.
Yeah.
A little bit, and decided to go through and calculate out the rest of this book. And we covered this on the last roundtable, but I will do it here for the book club fans as well. If there's anyone just listening strictly on the book club side, which is a safe thing to do if you've not finished the series, especially.
Right.
We are here today for number 28, so we are going to finish this book if all things go normal, which we've been pretty good about that for the most part. But if all things go normal, we will be finishing this book. Let's see. Well, let's see. At the end of the year, we're going to be on Book Club 34, and that will not be the end of the entire book, but the entire book will end on July 18th. So a year from yesterday.
Yeah.
That'll be our last book club, which is book club number 41 for this book. So that is kind of how it all chops out. Of course, I give us a little bit of a mulligan if there's anything that goes like tangent crazy or whatever.
Yeah, there's a little asterisk, date subject to change.
As well as in case I screwed up something, because I've never obviously planned like that many episodes out with our book clubs. I usually only do a couple at a time, if not just one at a time. So if there was somewhere that I fucked up something and screwed up something and like whatever, but as of now, it looks like a year from yesterday, we will be hitting our last Wizard and Glass book club, as well as we've also planned out our next year. And the fun thing about that is one of the months, the only month actually that we're going to have 3 episodes next month is August. And with that means that we're going to be starting with Wolves of the Kala with a double header, 2 episodes in a row. So, that is what you got coming down the pike when it comes to the book club series. So let's go ahead and jump on in here. So where did we leave off last time? So last time we had a number of things happen. Olive had a nightmare. Also, Thorin had a nightmare.
Both involving birds and
very
and
similar.
Destruction and red and blood and stuff like that.
Yeah, for him it was like the death, like everything was dying that the shadow of the bird touched. For her, she was seeing blood everywhere that it touched. So either way, sinister things were afoot with the bird. Also, Thorin thought it was a bird that he released onto the barony. And then we also saw Roy and some of the people of the town getting ready to arrest the boys and planning that. We have Susan and Roland having their last moments together, their last love, I should say, their last time having sex.
Yeah.
And that's what King told us, is it'd be the last time that they would ever have this,
right,
Congress, as it were. And so that we had that, and then we had the Demon Moon appearing blood red, which caused quite the stir in the town, giving us the idea that is not normal. And then Kimba Reimer had a rude awakening, as did Mayor Thorin.
Yes.
So that is
visits from Roy and Reynolds.
Yes, and then the boys
Roy DePape and Clay Reynolds.
And then the boys were arrested at the Bar K
at the very end.
In their very very early morning, just rubbing the sleep out of their eyes. They were arrested by the town folks, as well as the 2 lesser Coffin Hunters. Jonas is there, but we got the sense when they were riding in that Jonas stayed a little bit off of the Bar K.
Reynolds and DePape are not there. It's just the town people.
Oh, is it? I thought they had.
There's a line in one of the subchapters that confirms they are not there.
Oh, I didn't think he'd be dumb enough to trust even 20 town folk.
It was only the town folks that arrested the boys.
I just assumed that he had more intelligence than that.
So,
because these town folks are.
Well, they were busy.
I mean, the night before, yes. We got Robert and Brocky in the chat. Heil, and thank you for the snake emoji in the chat. I love that.
None of that. No,
especially
they're-
slimy and wet snakes.
Remember, they're taking the boys like right around sunrise,
Yeah.
and it was only like an hour or two before that the murders occurred.
Yeah.
So they don't have time to get out to the bar K with the.
Yeah,
with the
I
posse.
wouldn't trust all the town
Yeah,
people, man.
it is the town folks. So.
bunch of yokels. I don't know if I'd trust them to take the boys here. So I don't
Catching
know.
them by surprise, you know.
Yeah. So that's where we started off. Also, last time I know we jumped chapters during the course of the episode. Did we talk about the title of the chapter at all, or did we just jump and say chapter 7? Because as I was looking at this, as we were prepping this episode, I'm like, I don't remember talking about.
I don't think we did.
The name of the
that doesn't
chapter.
sound familiar.
Yeah. So the chapter 7, which we started last time, we did the first 4 subchapters, is titled "Taking the Ball."
Yeah.
So that is a very ominous name. And I think we probably all assume what's coming there. First time reading, even you read that, you're like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, so something's going to happen in this chapter. So, and we will finish this chapter during the course of this episode. So, also Baraki giving us an RIP for Ermont there. Sad times.
Stupid snake.
We're still in mourning. I should get some black armbands.
No.
Maybe snakeskin armbands. All right,
that,
so
that might be insensitive to Rhea.
yeah, that's true. That's true. And you don't want to upset a witch.
No.
That she'll turn you into a newt.
And Newt.
All right, so jumping into subchapter 5, Roland was roughly boosted onto Rusher. He almost flew off the other side and would have, but Dave Hollis was there to push him back to center and put his boots in his stirrups. Dave offered Roland a nervous, half-embarrassed smile. Roland tells him he's sorry to see him here, and Dave says he's sorry to be here, and if murder was his game, he should have gotten it done sooner, and not had his friend have a friend so arrogant as to leave a calling card while nodding towards Cuthbert. Roland had no idea what he meant, but it didn't matter. It was part of the frame, and none of these men believed much of it. Though Roland thought they would come to believe it in later years, and it would be handed down as fact to future generations. The glorious day that they had ridden down with the posse and taken down the traitors. Roland used his knees to turn Rusher, and there at the gate between the barcade, now approaching the road, was Jonas. Jonas doffed his hat and held it out to Roland and greeted him and told him good game, and told Roland he played it well for one who was taking his milk out of a tit not so long ago, which that is a fun insult.
Yeah.
That's a good one for a younger person. He then told Langil to get all their toys, anything sharp. He mentioned they have guns, but not on them. And the funny boy slingshot, he said that he had wanted to take Roy's head off with it not so long ago. Bert's horse was dancing under him, and he was swaying to and fro like a circus rider to stay on, and asked if he meant the carrot top, and said that he would not have missed his head much, his balls maybe, but not his head. Jonas said that was probably true, and watched as they found all of their weapons and relieved them of them. Roland thought it was good Roy had not tried Bert, because he could take a bird on the wing at 60 yards with his slingshot. So
Pretty impressive.
yeah, not too bad. I mean, there's a lot of people in our world that couldn't do that with a gun. So let's see. David also said, missed the last one, but I am here today. Welcome, David. And then Agamorphy says, Heil, notification said you were starting at 3, and then just now the deed came on. Or the feed came on. Okay. We actually started a few minutes early, 5 or so minutes early. I don't know how that affects the notifications and stuff. I guess you might see it. I think I may have it on.
I'm always on,
Yeah.
so it.
Oh, so it like overrides your
Yeah.
notifications.
Well, I don't have notifications turned on because I'm here when it
Yeah.
goes live. So
Yeah.
I see no reason to get notifications.
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
me going live.
I don't know how that works, because I do schedule the streams for exactly at the top of the hour, but every once in a while we will start early a little bit. So not really late so often, not on this show. All right, so diving into the notes here, man, I'm not sure if I've ever been on a horse. I think maybe at least once, but I don't know that anything would keep me on a horse with my hands cupped behind my back. Not just being not familiar with the feel of being on a horse overall, but also how much balance do you lose with your hands behind your back?
Yeah, and I have ridden horses a few times. My uncle had horses growing up and everything, and I'll tell you right now, even with your feet in the stirrup, unless you're wearing like the right kind of like boots, because of course I never wore boots.
Yeah.
I don't have cowboy boots. I wore sneakers, and unless you have that heel to like lock your foot in the stirrup, it's pretty hard to stay on a horse. That's kind of what your hands are for.
Yeah.
So to have them tied behind you,
but even even just holding on, but also just the balance that you got with your arms, like putting your arms behind your back. Like I feel like if you did like a field sobriety test with cuff to your back, like you're gonna fail more. I feel like there's even just on your feet, there's just a balance that you have to your arms that when they're.
Like when you're out trying to balance beam and stuff like that, you put your arms out for balance.
But yeah, I just feel like when you cuff someone's behind, I think it just throws off your entire balance as a human being in general. But then on top of a horse, I'd probably be dead.
I do know that it is possible to ride without your hands. I mean, think about it. Like Native Americans, cowboys, and everything.
For people that were familiar with it,
and Roland, obviously knows how to ride a horse with no hands.
He's probably been doing that almost longer than he's been walking, would be my assumption. Yeah. So, of course, you can't mention people that are good at horses without mentioning the Mongols.
Oh yeah,
probably the best horseman of all time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but there is a familiarity, of course, and I of course would definitely point out that I don't have that at all. But yes, I think that would be a tough act to do there. I also love that King calls Cuthbert swaying back and forth, looking like a circus rider.
Yeah,
that just feels right because Cuthbert is very clownish in his nature. So. David said, still bummed that I missed the episode where Reimer got 86th.
Yeah.
Indeed. And Thorin. He
does.
I mean, Reimer, that's one thing. I feel like Thorin feels like more of a villain, at least to us as readers. I mean, I think Reimer is more involved in the conspiracy, but I do think that we've obviously seen the mayor, sexually assaulting Susan a couple times. Yeah. So 16-year-old Susan, by the way. So it was pretty happy times to see him getting got. Let's see. And David, we covered your email, I think, on the book club or the roundtable last time.
The roundtable because, we just wanted to be careful.
Yeah, exactly. So we did cover that on the last episode 2 weeks ago, fortnight ago. So Roland believed that most of these men don't fully believe the frame. We debated this last episode. I guess I didn't think that they would have the heart. They wouldn't let the heart of the conspiracy out of a very small group, like who was in that room a while back, right? So either
which was. Just to re-go over that.
It was the Coffin Hunters
Coffin
themselves.
Hunters, Coral, and Latigo.
Yeah.
And Reimer.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
No, not Reimer, because that's when they confirmed
Avery.
that Reimer was going to be joining them. No.
Yeah.
No, are you meaning the one at the Traveler's Rest where it's just them in
the room.
Jonas's room?
Yeah.
Avery wasn't even there. It was the 3 Coffin Hunters, Latigo, and Coral.
Yeah, I thought they would keep it like tighter. Now, I will say, though, there is still some doubt here because ultimately either Roland is wrong or I am. So either Roland is just assuming all these people are in on the frame, or not. Also, there's something a little bit later in the chat in this episode that kind of would lead me to believe you probably wouldn't let too many of the townsfolk in on this conspiracy. So I do think that Roland is wrong here, and I think that most of these people truly believe that these boys killed these dudes, right? So, so I mean, but I don't necessarily see Roland as like bad with that guess though, because I don't know. Again, he's also a kid too, and we're seeing way more to the story than he is. So, I don't necessarily fault him for the bad guess, but I do think it might be a poor guess. So I guess I am just thinking better of people, but all the core conspirators would be put off by being a party to the murdering of their leaders. Like, so the rest of these people, I think they would just be, I hold them high enough in regard that, like, I guess they would be rubbed the wrong way of killing their beloved mayor, like whatever. I don't know. So Roland's thought about how these events would be believed years down the way is interesting. We know that the world is moving on, so it will be memories to a broken world. But victors write the histories, and in this small scale in this town, it looks like the victors are going to be the townsfolk here. Like with this trap sprung, like it certainly seems that Roland is probably correct that 100 years from now, whatever is left, I mean, it may even be like, what is it, Brown in the book 1, it might be one guy that's like the last, like, in a long line of people.
The last time we had someone from InWorld here, they murdered our mayor, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly, but he's like the last guy. It's like that, where it's like the town dwindles to almost nothing, and it's down to one family line, and it's down to one last guy that doesn't have any kids, and he's like the last bastion of this town. Like, I could totally see even whatever them believing whatever lies they come up with here.
Yeah, it would be interesting to dip back into Mejis 200 years after these events and see what the stories do say, if there is anything left of Mejis and everything. And I could imagine Mejis also getting completely destroyed. That's one of the things that, I mean, we think about it. we know that Gilead was destroyed. Roland said that before.
Yeah.
But we don't know how much that destruction
ripples out.
I
think sometimes
Like-
being far from the center helps you when those kind of things happen.
But does Mejis feel like that far from the center for you? Like,
far enough that like that's where they sent Roland to be hidden away. Like,
True.
So
True.
sometimes just that buffer of like, say like, the United
distance is enough.
Yeah, say the U.S. government were to fall, like, a town, here in Utah
Yeah.
is going to maybe fare better, and I'm not saying it would, I'm just saying, versus somewhere in Maryland that's, like, not that far removed from.
Yeah, like Philadelphia, New York, one of those big cities right there next to
right by the
fallout,
the power
and
center.
everything.
Yeah. So, and I think that shows throughout history, too, where, like, you'll see, like, at, the end of World War II is, like, these fascist empires were crumbling, like, places further removed from Berlin or Tokyo were not that they weren't affected by the war, but they were far less plugged into it. Like maybe they had less, mayhem going on because
you think of something like the German held islands in the Indian Ocean,
yeah,
or in Africa and everything like
Yeah.
that wasn't part of the war, but
Yeah.
the fighting's not happening there at the end of the war. It's like,
yeah.
well, this is all kind of crazy,
or
know?
far-flung Roman cities when Rome fell. Like,
Yeah.
those cities didn't cease. Now, they no longer were part of the Roman Empire.
They
but
had
like,
to become something else.
Yeah, they had to evolve, but it's like, versus if you were, like, right there in Rome, like, that was a shitty time as Rome was
It's
burning,
a very
right?
bad time to be a Roman. I just think it's interesting also to think about, like, Roland here has... I'm not going to discount Roland's instinct that he thinks that the townspeople are going to believe this frame job, because I think that there's always that aspect of a town where it's got to have a conspiracy. It's got to have the drama. And if it's just, these three boys came in and murdered our mayor for no reason, kind of thing.
Yeah.
If you give them a reason, then that's something else. But I wouldn't be surprised if 200 years from now the town still exists, and if there isn't this story about how the boys were framed.
Yeah.
Because there are things that aren't going to add up. Hey, why was the posse out there so fast? I mean, the mayor died in the middle of the night, and they were out there at 5 o'clock in the morning ready to capture the boys. Like,
yeah.
wait, like, I understand the calling card and everything like that, but
also the town's not going to know. We don't have, medical examiners that'll tell you the exact time of death. So it's the murders could have happened at 10 p.m., and the boys had plenty of time.
It's all a matter of, like, and there's a part later in one of your sections where there's just rumors flying about.
Yeah.
And I just say that for every 100 people who are going to believe it, there's going to be 10, 15 over here that are going to be like, something seems off about this, because there always is.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how you have conspiracy theorists and everything.
But people
like that,
do
right?
like tight packages too. They like
They do.
they like when things have a bow on them. So that's where most will swallow the pill, because it's just it's nice when it's just cool. It's all in a perfect bow. Let's just move on.
But out of every 100 people that you give something that's perfectly wrapped up and everything like that, you're going to have those few people that are going to be like, that's too neat. I mean, like,
yeah.
Come on, me and you have both had instances of that in conspiracy theories that we've talked about over the years. It's
Yeah,
like,
but also
it's
this
the CIA tells us it's X, Y, and Z, and you're like, that's way too neat. That's way too.
But we're also in a much different world.
It is.
In this kind of world where, like, survival is on the line constantly, I think people have a little bit less time now. Of course, I think what it would be is like when you're at the Traveler's Rest having a drink.
Yeah,
there might be kind of the crazy.
I'm not saying they're going to do anything about it, but I think it's one of those ones where, like, you're playing a hand of watch me having a beer with your friend, and he's like, yeah, my dad was one of the ones who helped arrest the boys that killed our mayor, and it's like, man, my dad never believed that those boys did that. He was one of the ranchers, and he met them, and, and everything like that. I could see that being a thing. And, of course, then someone gets stabbed over it because it's an argument, and it's this, it's the Traveler's Rest, right?
Yeah. Agamorphy says rode a pony once. It's weird.
It's very weird, depending on how big you are. Like if you're an adult riding a pony, that's not good.
Yeah. David said Bert calls out Roland's name about a minute before Jonas asks Roland what his name is. Now, I will say Jonas isn't there. That's inside the barn when
Right.
they get taken.
Yep.
Jonas is still out on the road. So the men immediately in there would have heard that. We covered that in the last episode. I know you weren't here, David. We did cover that. But ultimately, Jonas is removed. And also, do you think Jonas, I mean, we're going to get there in a second, but do you think Jonas actually cares about, like, just his name, or does he want, like, his full name? Does he want to know who he is, right?
I think he absolutely does, because
Versus, like,
who are you really?
Say, had he just heard Roland, is that enough? No, I think he wants to know, like, okay, who is you? Who's your dad? Like, who who do you come from, or whatever?
Exactly.
Like, I think that's probably more the question. But ultimately, yes, he was. I think the reason Jonas was out, because if shit had gone sideways, he would have been the ultimate, like, stopper if shit went sideways.
Also,
right?
he can't be blamed then.
Yeah,
I think that's a big thing, is that we see that later in one of the subchapters I cover. Is
he's
that
looking for scapegoats.
He's looking for any way not to be the person held holding the jug when something bad happens.
I mean, maybe, but also, like, I feel like this is a little bit less on Farson's radar. So I do think this might be more of, like, with you being further back, you're able to see the whole scene, and if they're, like, squirt out one side, like, you're not now, like, on the wrong side, super close to the barn, you don't see him leaving. You're going to have a nice wide view of everything, and it's like, nope, there they are, and then you'll ride out quickly and,
tail them.
Yeah.
They'll turn and kill him. I mean, that's the thing. If they see him, I think it's Jonas is. I really think it's just solely that he doesn't want to be there if something goes sideways and one of them gets killed, because the whole thing is supposed to be that they're taken unharmed, let the town do it and everything. If someone gets an itchy trigger finger and everything like that, he should not be the one held responsible. I think that's what it is with Jonas.
Yeah, and Baraki says, I think there was at least a couple layers to the conspiracy, inner and outer, and I totally agree. I think
absolutely.
There is multiple layers, and, like, like, in terms of, like, the Farson stuff,
yeah.
I feel like more of the town is involved. We kind of got that from Susan a number of chapters ago, where, she kind of understood there's going to be a number of people you just cannot. This they have to know. But I do think, like, the layer of, like, killing the mayor and his chancellor, there's very few people that know that. I think it's down to single digits.
Yes,
I don't
100%. I don't think it's more than 10.
No. And I think if you're counting on more than one hand, I think you're barely using any fingers on that second hand too. So I don't even think you're close to 10. So I also love Cuthbert dunking on Roy and Jonas agreeing. That's just that's great. I love that. Let's see. David says, I agree. They're not all conspirators. Let's see.
A hothead of Lee Harvey Oswald.
Yeah, exactly.
I was a patsy.
Yeah. So going on here, while this is going on, Jonas fixed Roland with his smile and asked him what his real name was. And there was no harm in telling now he was going to ride the Handsome, and they both knew it. Roland did not answer. Langell looked at Jonas, who shrugged and signaled towards town. Langell poked Roland hard with a finger and told them to ride.
Hold on before you get to this section, because I know this is really critical for us. I just realized something. It is kind of important for Roland to keep his name out, like his full name, because Cuthbert does say Roland, but he doesn't say, Roland Deshane. He doesn't say his
Roland
last
Deshane,
name.
son of Stephen.
Yeah, son of Stephen. He doesn't say that. But I wonder if maybe here this is where Jonas wants to know exactly what he's caught. Because, yes, okay, maybe he's a gunslinger. Maybe he's an apprentice, that kind of thing. All those questions are still up in the air for Jonas.
Yeah.
He still doesn't know exactly what he's caught with these three boys. If he found out that he has 3 gunslinger sons, that might change the equation altogether with everything.
And
with
high
that,
ranking.
with Farson.
Yeah.
Especially Roland being the son of the leader of the gunslingers, gunslinger, Stephen, and everything.
Yeah.
I never thought about that before, that they actually do keep their identity still secret from Jonas.
Yeah.
Here and everything. And, like, the one slip Cuthbert says Roland and everything. So it's just like, Roland doesn't say it because, hey, at the end of the day, don't give your enemy anything.
Yeah.
Because Roland could absolutely be like, yeah, the jig is up. I can tell him my name. Maybe then he'll be scared and not hurt me and stuff like that. I think Roland's really smart by not saying that. I've never thought about that before until you were just saying your notes there about the conspiracy and everything. So
So now I do have a extended section from the book. So we'll just read it verbatim here, this little section. So Roland squeezed Rusher's side. the horse trotted towards Jonas, and suddenly Roland knew something. As with all of his best and truest intuitions, it came from nowhere and everywhere. Absent at 1 second, all there, fully dressed to the next. Just a real quick pause. I will say that's the lightning flash of understanding. We heard that in a previous book. Where Roland's like, it's like looking over a dark valley, and then suddenly a flash of lightning comes, and you're suddenly able to see everything. Yep. Was that to do with Detta? And Odetta, maybe.
I think so.
And like so, like that's just King's writing it in a different way, but it's something we've seen from Roland before. So I love that. Going on. Quote, who sent you west, maggots? Or who sent you west, maggot? He asked. I almost went Court there and said maggots. He asked as he passed Jonas. Couldn't have been Court. You're too old. Was it his father? The look of slightly bored amusement left Jonas's face, flew from his face as if slapped away. For one amazing moment, the man with the white hair was a child again, shocked, shamed, and hurt. Yes, Court's da. I see it in your eyes. And now you're here, on the clean sea, except you're really in the West. The soul of a man such as you can never leave the West. I'm getting chills just reading. Good stuff here. Jonas's gun was out and cocked in his hand with such speed that only Roland's extraordinary eyes were capable of marking its movement. There was a murmur from the men behind them, partially shock, mostly awe. Jonas, don't be a fool, Langell snarled. You ain't killing them after we took all this time and risked to hood them and tie their hooks, are ye? Jonas seemed to take no notice. His eyes were wide. The corners of his seamed mouth were trembling. Watch your words, Will Dearborn, he said in a low, hoarse voice. You want to watch him ever so close. I got 2 pounds of pressure on a 3-pound trigger right this second. Fine, shoot me, Roland said. He lifted his head and looked down at Jonas. Shoot, exile. Shoot, worm. Shoot, you failure. You'll still live in exile, and you'll die as you lived. For a moment, he was sure Jonas would shoot, and in that moment, Roland felt death would be enough, an acceptable end after the shame of being caught so easily. In that moment, Susan was absent from his mind. Nothing breathed in that moment. Nothing called. Nothing moved. The shadow of the men watching this confrontation, both on foot and on horseback, were printed depthlessly on the dirt. Then Jonas dropped the hammer of his gun and slipped it back into his holster. So, I mean, what a moment.
Yeah.
And my note here, holy fuck, I'm not sure we ever give this moment enough credit. I think with the showdown at the Traveler's Rest in this book, it's easy to maybe miss this amongst other great moments. But this is one of the big ones for me, and maybe in the whole series. I checked out our 2023 March Insanity, and this didn't even make the bracket. But goddamn, this is so good. And like I don't remember if it was nominated, it just didn't have enough votes, or if it's one that we all overlooked. But this is just a great moment.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this is on par with showing down Blaine. Which was in the last book, right? Like,
yeah, he definitely shows what he's made of here, Roland, I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Staring a gun in the face, calling him still a magnet, calling him a worm and all that stuff. Just like...
Yeah. And I feel like there's a contempt in his voice.
Oh, yeah.
Like, King doesn't really point it out there necessarily, but I feel like there's just an absolute, just like, I don't know, like how you would look at just the lowest form of scum in our society, which I'm not sure what that might be, but like the way you would look at that, there's just an absolute, like, it's almost a disgust to even talk to the person. Like, I feel like that's there, and I feel like I can't wait to see like whatever actor portrays this and is able to really bring this to life, because I feel like there's just the absolute disgust in the voice that like it's hard to even put. It almost would be worse than the words themselves, or it's just like, especially because when you're looking at, I mean, the show will end up probably aging him up, but ultimately in this story that we're reading now, this is a 14-year-old. Imagine being looked down upon with such like just disdain from a 14-year-old. Like,
yeah, disgust, disdain, just utter contempt from Roland here. Absolutely. It's also kind of interesting to look at how they treat their failed gunslingers. You know, like the ones who do fail to beat Court, in this case Court's dad, is interesting to look at as a society kind of thing. It's like, oh, you tried and failed? Yeah, fuck you. Yeah. You vile piece of shit. But also at the same time, here's the question, is it just because he's a failed gunslinger, or is it because he's a failed gunslinger and now he's doing this shit with Farson and stuff like that?
No.
Is it just because he failed?
I think it's the failure, because I mean, Stephen gave that to Roland when he was talking to him in the brothel and stuff, where it's like, you could have been sent west, like that would have been pretty much the end of it, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the end for you. Like, I think at that point you are discarded from society. Now, and I think, like, honestly, there's part of me that wonders if this is the more normal thing that happens to the ones that move west, right? Like, what are you going to do with these skills? There's not a lot of, like, noble things you're going to do with them, and you're probably going to have, like, some contempt for the order, right? So it's like, even if you could, would you?
You got you got that resentment going towards them. I could have done it if they had done this for me, but they didn't. They didn't think I was good enough and all that kind of stuff, that the resentment towards them, which is exactly what we kind of get from Jonas throughout this book. Is just like, fuck the gunslingers, fuck Gilead, kind of thing.
Yeah. All right. So I also find it interesting that in that moment, a moment he thought he was thinking his very last thoughts, and he was sure he was going to die, Susan doesn't enter his mind. I think that's very telling about who Roland is. It truly shows us that Roland is this is the Roland who let Jake drop and doubted his vows the second he gave them to Jake upon his redrawing. That same Roland is here. Like, I think that it's been easy to, like, see that this is a different Roland throughout this story, especially lovesick, in love Roland. But it's like all of that. And then here in this moment, like, I mean, think about the last 3 months, like, Susan has been the absolute center of his entire universe.
So much so that he was even, like, skirting his duty and everything.
Yes. And now in this moment of, like, last thoughts, she's nowhere near his thoughts. Like, so I think that just shows, like, and I think that, I'm not going to go too deep.
The Roland that we saw in Drawing of the Three, Wastelands, and the Gunslinger is there.
Yes.
It's under a layer of childhood, maybe, and apprenticeship.
And there is some innocence, I think, that still exists.
Still there. But it's there.
But that Roland is still here at the core of it, and I think that's very critical, because I'm not going to say too much because, like, whatever, but, like, throughout the course of the rest of this story, I think that, there's some people that might point to some things later in this story that I'm going to keep it vague because I'm not getting into spoilers, but, like, that people would point to as, like, okay, this is the moment that we truly seen a transformation from Roland.
You start to see him go down this road.
To become the Terminator that we see him later. But I'm saying that this moment right here, and I don't think I've ever locked onto this until now. That's why I love these book clubs, because you could really just sit and, like, let a section, like, sit in your mouth for a minute, like taste it, like
let it breathe,
get the notes and stuff. And I think that's where it kind of came to me here, is where it's like, the fact that was said, like, when you think of the implications of that, like, that means that truly all of that was thrown aside. All of the Susan stuff was thrown aside. It was because, I mean, I would assume that, most people that have a love of their life, like, if they were facing death, that's probably the last thoughts that they have is going to be for their loved ones. So I think it's very, very, very telling for Roland's character. And then going on, maybe this is worse. I mean, trained or not, he is a child, and he's just spent the summer of in the heat of his first true love. So for her to not even enter his mind really encapsulates him almost entirely in one sentence.
Yeah.
Right? Because, again, the child element of it, the fact that he did get caught up in the like puppy love, and, like, whatever you can call it, maybe it was true love. We can debate that, but ultimately, a kid of that age, you know how it is. We've all been there. Like, there's just you don't have a grasp on reality enough to understand that, like, that is just like a puppy love thing, right? Like, you think that your first time you ever fall in love, quote unquote, and I would even say as an adult looking back, that probably wasn't really love, right? You were infatuated for a short time in junior high or high school, whatever it was, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, for you, that was true love, and, like, that's like the center of your world. So the fact that he is in that age group, even with all of his training, he is still that age. And so for that to not even enter his mind is like, whoa.
And that's where my note was kind of like rationalizing for Roland and everything like that, but at the same time, I kind of countered myself, so I was going to delete this whole note, but then I wanted to talk about it still, and I was just wondering, is it because that she's safe? Is Susan safe? Because if Jonas had shot him here, would she be outed? She'd be free of Thorin and everything like that. Not that Roland even knows that Thorin's dead. He doesn't even know who they murdered, supposedly, I don't think.
No,
did they say it in the last episode? I think they may have.
I think it was last episode. Yeah,
they did let him know. So he, even at this
it
moment,
was a land,
like,
right? Who are we supposed to have
who
murdered?
are we supposed to have murdered? You or the mayor and his chancellor, something like that. But even if at that, I was thinking about it as I was typing this, I'm like, oh, wait, Rhea knows, and she wants to hurt her.
Yeah.
So she would still be in danger and everything like that, but still, despite all that, that's why I decided to leave this note.
Yeah.
Despite all that, she still doesn't enter his mind, because his mind at this moment is pure gunslinger.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to call back to what he says to Jonas, like, fine, shoot me, fine. shoot, exile, shoot, worm, shoot, you failure. You'll still live in exile and die as you live. That line I wanted to call back out again after saying that, because I really think that here, the kid Roland, the love-struck Roland, the Roland who has the issues with his mother, all of that is gone. What this is right here, talking to Jonas, this is the purest form of Roland the gunslinger that we've seen.
Yeah.
Since book 1. I don't think we've seen this, especially here in Mejis and everything in book 4. But here, you strip it all the way. That is what you said. Roland the Terminator, Roland the gunslinger.
Yeah.
That's what's sitting here on the horse talking to
And he's just
Jonas.
shooting with his words.
And he's only using his words, and look how badly he affected Jonas to where...
Yeah, and we're going to see it reverberate the rest of this episode.
Yeah, they were preaching not to hurt the boys, not to shoot them, take them alive.
And you know that Jonas was the one that made that command, right?
And he's the one that made that command, because it was Roy who went to Avery and made sure, or to Pape, whichever one it was, and made sure that they knew it as well, that Jonas is reminding them, and to have Jonas get so frazzled that he pulls on Roland.
Yeah.
That's unreal.
Yeah. Yeah, good stuff. Catching up on the chat, Fourth Legacy says, hi, Alcatet. Finally able to make it back to a live book club. Welcome. I forget, do you have a list?
That's Ben.
Ben, okay. I was like, Zach was coming to mind, but I'm like, I
did write down.
Yeah.
He's one of the ones that I've written down.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, no, Zach is like ZTZT or something, because the Z always, that's, yeah. So I knew I was wrong there. Robert says, damn, Roland, snap. David, how old is Jonas? I think he's probably 60s would be my...
I think it's what we figured out timeline-wise, is that it has to be either late 50s or late, early 60s.
He's got some bow leg issues, which would be normal in this kind of society.
Obviously, he is...
Gray hair.
Court's dad is the one that sent him in West.
Multiple people have called him like the old one, you know, like Cordelia, I think at one point thought something about his age. So I do think that I would probably place him in like the 60s would be my guess. Yeah, that'd be my assumption.
Baraki says this is the Roland that told Blaine to kill him but command him nothing. Yeah, exactly. I said, the gunslinger Roland, not the diplomat, not the boy, just pure gunslinger.
Yeah. Robert asks, when do I level up with all this XP? And I don't know how that works. On my side, I have a button I can push that says top fans, and it shows.
Yeah.
And it shows XP, and I wasn't sure if that came from typing comments.
I'm pretty sure that it comes from typing comments, because when we did Geekery Abides last week, I was paying attention.
Okay.
And I typed one message and I jumped up.
Okay.
And then my wife and I can't remember who else was in the chat passed me because they were typing stuff.
Okay. So yeah, this is all new last episode. So yeah, we're still getting used to this on the YouTube.
I don't even know what it does. I think it just shows who's typing the most.
And it shows a badge for number 1, number 2, whatever. So and number 3 I see as well. All right, going on here. Jonas told Langell to take them to town and jug them, and when he sees them next, he doesn't want to see a hair on their head harmed. If he could stop from killing this one, then these men can keep from hurting the rest. Langell ordered the team to move, but his voice had lost its authority. It was the voice of a man who had realized too late that he had bought chips to a game whose stakes were too high for him. They rode, and as they did, Roland turned one last time, and the contempt Jonas saw in those cool young eyes stung him worse than the whips that had scarred his back in Garland years ago, which we covered that a couple episodes back. Mm-hmm. Was it Coral?
Coral
Thorin. No, when they were after they made love, he stood up and looked out the window, and she kind of didn't even remark, but she thought in her head where it's like, oh my god,
look at how scarred he is.
Yeah, look at those whip marks on his back and stuff. So we kind of know that he's kind of got some serious scarring from a whipping, and he's saying this eye look here from Roland stung him worse than the whips.
Yeah.
So in my note here, and that was the end of the subchapter. So my notes going on here. Interesting for Jonas to not want them to be roughed up. I would think that it wouldn't really matter so long as they were alive. You know, it's kind of an interesting thing.
My notes responding. Well, with them being well liked by the town, remember the whole town loves these kids, right? I could see it being a bad look if they were beaten to hell when they were told who committed the murders. I mean, imagine that. You wake up on the day before Reap, and you find out that the mayor and the chancellor have been murdered by the 3 boys from the inner baronies. Why? Why would they do that? And then you find out that the boys were beaten to to hell and in prison, it's kind of like, well, God.
It could buy him some sympathy.
Yeah, exactly. Garner some sympathy for them, maybe. You know,
Yeah.
like, God, these poor boys, like, what happened? You know,
Yeah,
like,
and they are kids, so it's going to be hard for
Exactly.
parents to see that without seeing their own kids.
Exactly. And that's I think Jonas is very smart for this. You want them looking prim and proper and everything like that, because then there's also that aspect of, well, these fucks think they're better than us, kind of thing.
Yeah, the high barony look that was going against them early on.
Exactly.
So, my next note, also this command about them not being harmed might also mean that these men have to protect the boys from the townsfolks, because if word is spread, it is apt in a small, which is apt to do in a small community. A mob may be ready to lynch the boys the second they roll into town,
And
and
I wonder-
now it's on these men
yeah.
to defend them. Right? It's like you've got to I don't want to see a hair harmed. And it's like, okay, that's like implied where it's like, I don't want you to hurt them, but also means in town, if there's like a fucking crazy mob, it's your responsibility to keep these boys away from the mob.
I just imagine that the mob wouldn't be able to form as they were riding into town. I think them riding into town would be like, oh, it was them. That's why they're arrested. Quick, gather the mob, and then they would march on the jail is what I picture.
Yeah, but
So-
I think these men will have to like,
Yeah, it's just a
Hold
matter of
off.
how many of these guys are going to hang around the jail afterwards. That's the question. Is like,
Yeah.
Or do you just, or if you're Jonas, you know, like, hey, I want them looking good, but remember, we want the townsfolk to handle this. If the townsfolk handle it with a lynch mob, okay, that's no skin off his back, right?
yeah. Yeah, indeed. I remember reading this the first time, and images of the stand returned to my head with Vegas folks who were driven crazy by Glenn on the few hour drive back to Vegas. They split them up into, and there's one
In the
person that
cars,
ended up
yeah.
in like with Glenn in one car, and then the other. I think the other were they all in different cars? I don't remember. But either way, I know.
I think Ralph and Larry rode together for some
then
reason,
Glenn was-
Glenn was alone with like 3 of Flag's guys.
And then, like, when they get to Vegas, they like start roughing him up a little bit, and they're like,
They're
"Dude,
like,
what the
"Hey,
hell?
be
He's an old
nice."
man." He's like, "Dude, you try sitting in the car with this guy for 2 hours." Like,
Yeah.
and that just came to my mind immediately because, like, with Cuthbert, would that not be a
Oh,
concern?
God. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I will say that we may not be seeing like textbook Cuthbert here. Obviously, shit's gone very, very sideways. So I don't know. Maybe the sense of humor. Well, never mind, because he made the remark about Roy, you know, missing his balls more than his head. And I will say that was an insult, but that also does kind of have the Cuthbert humor in there as well. So, all right, let's go jump on over to subchapter 6.
All right, so when they were out of sight, Jonas went into the bunkhouse and pulled out the boards that hid their little armory. Only 2 guns were inside. The matching set of 6 shooters, most likely Dearborns, were missing. And then a quote from the book directly, because it's repeating what Roland said. "You're in the West. The soul of a man such as you can never leave the West. You'll live in exile and die as you lived." That's the end of the quote. Jonas's hands went to work disassembling the revolvers of Cuthbert and Alan. Alan had never been worn save for the practice range. He went outside and threw all the pieces to different points of the compass. He threw as hard as he could, trying to rid himself of the cold blue gaze and the shock of hearing what he believed no man had known. Roy and Clay suspected, but they hadn't been sure. Before the sun went down, everyone in Mejis would know that Eldred Jonas was a failed gunslinger. And then another quote.
Real
again.
quick, did we know? I feel like we've had some hints,
we
but
suspected.
we've not had any, like, this is a confirmation for us as readers
Yep.
too. Because like I was like, I think there was like at least a couple things throughout this book club too where I was like, okay, there's some hints of his backstory, but I think this is a first revelation for us too. So the first time reading it, it
Yeah.
kind of hits you where it's like, oh shit, like no wonder he's been so fucking like
Yeah.
capable. So yeah.
I think it's always been kind of suspected, but it's never been confirmed. And that's actually my first note. Is I always forgot that Jonas being a failed gunslinger wasn't revealed until this late in the story.
Yeah.
Like every other time I'm about to start Wizard and Glass, like, oh yeah, Jonas, yeah, the failed gunslinger. Yeah, they find that out after like the Traveler's Rest. No, it's like, what are we, like 79% through the book?
Yeah, we're quite a ways through.
Yeah. Okay, so again, re-quoting Roland here, "You'll live in exile and die as you lived," straight from the book. "Perhaps," Jonas said out loud, looking at the burned-out ranch house without really seeing it, "but I'll live longer than you, young Dearborn, and die long after your bones are rusting in the ground." I like that phrase, rusting in the ground for bones.
Yeah.
He mounted up and swung his horse around, sawing viciously at the reins. He rode for Sitco to meet up with Roy and Clay. He rode hard, but Roland's eyes rode with him, and that's the end of the The subchapter. So that's
short subchapter. But I think, and I said earlier, we're going to see a reverberation of Roland's
Yes.
words throughout the rest of this entire episode. And like we just
here.
we have a whole fucking subchapter just dedicated to like him like letting that shit clang in his fucking head, right? And like I can't wait to see an actor play this up too. Like I don't know if you like, have like the Roland dialogue like echo and like audibly where we could hear it, but I like you get a good actor that's like eating the scenery here and like see them just like fucking completely change dispositions. So.
And that's the line I was referring to earlier. Is he rode to Sitco to meet up with Roy and Clay. So we know that they're not there with the townsfolk then to take them. So
David, I like how he says perhaps. No, Jonas, perhaps. Not perhaps, definitely.
Yeah, exactly. So I already covered my first note here, so you're up.
Let's see. Not sure. And David also says, I think we find out whenever he is meeting with Walter. And so, again, I think there is some hints.
Walter says it, but it's not like we can, like, oh, yep, that's 100% universal truth kind of thing.
I mean, Flag said it, so of course it's true.
No. That man lies with every breath.
I mean, that's what you say, but Roland says in book 1 that he does many things, but lie is not one of them. So.
And Roland's never been mistaken before.
Our lives for him. That's all I'm saying.
No. You don't get to say our lives. You don't get to include me in that. What the hell?
So not sure I've ever fully locked into the fact that the two boys only had one gun apiece.
I noticed that the last time I read through earlier this year, that it's like, wait, that's only one gun apiece. They didn't have, the 2 6-shooters, kind of thing.
Yeah, indeed. That's wild. I mean, not that it matters. I mean, because ultimately it's not really used. I mean, we've hardly seen them the entire story. So my next note, also interesting that Jonas doesn't put more worry or concern into the missing guns. I feel like this is him underestimating the boys. As much as he tries not to, I think he does slip, and this is a big one. Because I feel like it's just one of those things where it's like, hey, even though you've got them like caged, bottled, they're going to go to into the jail and everything. Like there's a loose thread here, and the loose thread is his fucking guns. Where are they? Because I feel like the Jonas that's been like very paranoid about I'm not going to get bested by these boys again. Would lock in on that and be like, hey, what the fuck? Did they see this coming? Did he plant these guns? Are they in the jail somewhere? I mean, there's just a number of things that he should be thinking through in my mind, but he kind of just lets it breeze by. And it's like, I feel like 9 out of 10 times since the showdown at the Traveler's Rest, Jonas has been on point, but 1 out of every 10, he lets something slide, and this is one of them, I think, where it's just like, you're just going to breeze by the fact that...
That's a really good point. I've never thought about that Jonas just kind of is just like, yeah, Dearborn's guns, the ones that I thought belonged to a gunslinger are gone. Oh, well. Anyway. What's that gift? Oh, that's terrible. Well, anyways. Anyways, moving on.
Exactly.
I think we see a little bit of the gunslinger here. Jonas can't stand that everyone in the town will know. It's that pride that comes with being a gunslinger is a little bit insulted, that they're all going to know that he's failed gunslinger. They're all going to know what he is, and he can't. It's eating him up inside, and so that's why he's acting the way that he is. And Roland's words also are just like stinging.
And he's a kind of he's an outlaw, right? He's a harrier, but ultimately he has gained some respect in this town over the course of the story.
They think the world of Jonas and the
big Coffin Hunters. He's a deputy, like he's kind of worked his way. I know he doesn't care. He's not staying long term, but it's just interesting that he does actually care what people think. It just it spells out a bit about kind of his psychology, which is my next note as well. I love the impact on Jonas. It shows his psychology. At his core, he is still a shamed young adult who failed his trial. And with the way Roland knew what he knew, he knows that Roland is either in training to be a gunslinger or apprentice, especially calling out names. Like, oh, Court, or no, you're too old. It'd be Court's dad. Yep. So it's like,
well, also
knowing those things would kind of mean, like, in my mind, I would think he'd probably be able to deduce that, like, okay, and which would match like the Traveler's Rest. Like it maybe almost make him feel a little bit better. Where it's like,
well, he also found the guns that are very obviously. Yeah. Look at Bert and Alan's guns compared to Dearborn's guns. Yeah. Roland's guns. So which he think is Will. Also, so I think that he's definitely like, oh damn.
Yeah.
I thought I was going against a player at this level, but I'm going against a player who's 7 times higher than I thought. No wonder.
Yeah. Also, that goes to the point I had a few episodes ago where there isn't necessarily as big of a gun shortage this far back as there is in the earlier books.
Yeah.
In the earlier books, guns are like museum pieces.
There's
Like
no
like,
one.
there's,
There's no one in Tull that has a single gun.
no, like,
The
and we've seen,
entire town is gunless.
and the river crossing, Ludd, like everywhere we've been, like guns are just not a thing.
No.
So the fact that he's just taking these apart and throwing them the pieces away, like shows that like. But ultimately, he didn't take Roland's either, so that's already been proven. But this proves it further that
well,
it's like
remember that was a scouting mission.
No, I know.
The whole
I
point
know.
was that if they had been the Sandalwood, he wouldn't have been able to
But
resist.
if guns were as rare
Right.
in this point as they were at what they've been in the first three
he would have
books,
taken.
he would have
taken
them,
all 4 of
100%.
those guns.
Yeah,
absolutely.
and it wouldn't have been a matter
And
of
it would have been consequences be damned. These are way too
valuable.
valuable.
Yeah, exactly.
I almost said priceless.
Yeah. So despite the crazy age gap, the judgment of Roland actually shook him to his core. And I wonder if now just understanding like fully that like, okay, like, you know, whatever, like there's just like, it's almost like a judgment from the gunslinging, whatever. But also, again, it just almost brings him back to being a child. And it's just kind of an interesting thing because like we've really seen Jonas just be this hard ass harrier this whole time. And you'd almost think to a point where he almost wouldn't even care if people knew, because it's just a matter of like, yeah, I'm a failed gunslinger, so what? I could still fucking cut
builds-
your heart out 3 ways before
it
you
also
hit the
builds
ground.
like the ethos of him, the image of him being a badass.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So the fact that like there's this shame that goes along with that is like interesting, and I think it kind of puts a new wrinkle on Jonas very late in the story here. But I feel like it completely changed, not completely, but it changes his character in a way for me where it's like, okay, there's more to you than like whatever, like the trauma of your failed, and I don't want to say childhood because, you know, Roland was the youngest ever and his dad was like 16 and he was the youngest ever before.
Yeah.
So I think most kids probably do it at 18, 19, something
well,
would
they
be
have
my
to
guess.
remember they have to do it before they turn 18, otherwise they become the diplomats and stuff like that. So 17 and a half kind of area.
Yeah, so
I wonder if there is a stigma around failed gunslingers being pieces of shit and worthless and lower than the lowest dogs and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So maybe that's the aspect that he doesn't want, because he will lose some of the town's respect by becoming, oh, he's just a failed gunslinger. We can deal with a failed gunslinger. They're pieces of shit. You know, like,
versus a capable harrier, because like
Exactly.
because they've seen the speed that he's able to do things. They've seen his intelligence and stuff. But yeah, I do think that it kind of shows there is still some like trauma though. Like there's still some shit living with him.
well, I wonder if that's what's really affecting him. Like you talk about his psychology, and I love that phrase, the psychology of Jonas, is that he is affected by the fact that Roland is able to call out this stuff, not to mention the thing with the guns and the thing with them beating them at the Traveler's Rest. All of a sudden, he's starting to have, I think there's a little voice in the back of his head going, oh, fuck, it's a real gunslinger. Oh, fuck, it's a real one.
Yeah.
You have to come face to face with your past. Oh, no. You know.
Yeah.
And so that doubt that all that stuff is seeping in, and maybe that's what makes it so that he doesn't think about where's Roland's guns
Yeah.
and everything.
David points out a good point here. He thinks he sees the face of the guy named Fardo, then says that it's the one who sent him west. So that's the flag thing. So I guess ultimately we've had some pretty decent confirmation he was gunslinger, but it was very recent though. That wasn't that far back. So also I guess that fills it in for us that Fardo is the name of Court's dad.
Oh yeah.
Also, I would say, what would you guess? Court's probably closer to 50. So that's where like
He's pretty old, yeah.
So, but I think like if Jonas is 50 to 60, like there's a chance that like Jonas was like training when like, you know, Court was a little ankle biter. So, to Roland's point of like you're too old. Let's see. And then Baraki says he doesn't want it to be true because that would be salt to the wounds of his pride that such young men were gunslingers and succeeded where he failed. That's another part of
I didn't even think about that Roland was able to succeed and get his guns where Jonas failed.
Yeah. And he's only 14,
Yeah.
right? Jonas probably did it much older, you know, I mean, probably at least 17. And I feel like you could probably get up to close to 18 or so because again, like, I remember Court's words to Roland. It's like, you know, your dad was the youngest ever and his dad, and he's like, you're younger than him by 2 years. So he did it at 16 and that was kind of remarkable. So I kind of feel like, 17 to 18 is probably in that range where like you're seeing a lot of people do it. Plus also we got to admit, you know, how many people like maybe even do their trial and they do it later because they want to be diplomats and politicians and you know, whatever. So all right, jumping over to subchapter 7, we start here in the perspective of Susan, who is someone who is trying to wake her up, both verbally and then by jostling. It had been a week. It had been weeks since she got a good night's sleep, and with her mind full of the possibilities, none good, she had experienced nothing different. She had not experienced anything different last night. The nightgown she had was wearing drove her nuts as well, and when she got up to use the bathroom, she took it off and threw it in the corner. That did the trick, because when she got back into bed and she dropped off almost at once. Now the voice and the arms shaking her brought her out of this good sleep, and she tried to slide away from the arms, but they followed her. I don't know why that makes me laugh, like sliding away from someone trying to wake you up.
Yeah.
So very relatable. I'm not a morning person in the slightest, and especially when I was her age, I was very, very hard to wake up. It wasn't very, well, I won't say it was not unheard of for my mom to throw water on me in high school.
I've heard this story multiple times, a couple times as well.
There's a handful of times that it happened, so I was definitely very, very hard to wake up. So I relate to Susan here.
I think it's a requirement for every teenager to be hard to wake up. I think it's just, like, legally they have to do it. Otherwise they get put in jail, and they can't have that.
Yeah, they lose their teenager
I'll tell
card.
you right now, my daughter's only 12. She's not even a teenager yet, and there's days where I'm like, hey, time to get up. 3 hours later, that kid's still not fully up and out of bed. I'm just like, come on.
Yeah, indeed. So her trying to move away from the arms and the voice just makes me laugh. It's just there's a humor to that. I love it. So she finally realized it was Maria's voice, and she had not recognized it because she had been so upset, and Susan had never heard her upset like that before. She was on the brink of hysteria. Susan sat up, and so much of the inputs were wrong that it froze her. The blanket fell from her exposed breasts, and she seemed incapable of grabbing it due to her shock. The first thing wrong was the light. It flooded in the window more strongly than she had ever seen. She realized she had never been in this seafront room this late before. It had to be 10 o'clock or even later. The next thing wrong was the sounds from below. Mayor's house is usually a very peaceful place in the morning, but this morning there were shouts, curses, galloping horses, and the occasional burst of jagged laughter, and the running thud of boots in nearby wings. Third and most wrong was Maria. Her skin was ashy, and her usually neat hair was tangled and unbound. Susan thought it would take an earthquake. Only an earthquake can make her look like that. So, and that's something you see in a lot of like media and stuff, where you'll see someone, woke up by someone, and like just something about whatever it is enough to make them realize that wait, what the fuck's wrong? Like something's off here, right? Yeah. And so I love how King's kind of spelling it out here. So King paints a great picture here, and of course he writes it more elegant than my recap. He really captures that feeling of waking up from deep sleep and then slowly unfolding the pieces that makes Susan realize something is wrong. We are ahead of Susan in terms of knowing as readers what's going on, but she still has to catch up to us and figure it out. So, yeah. That's I don't know. It's just kind of King wrote it well. I had to in recapping. There's a lot we have to kind of condense down and not be as poetic. We're just recapping and then taking notes and talking about it and analyzing it. But yeah, ultimately King wrote this incredibly, and it feels like you're in it. It feels like you're her, and you're like in that deep sleep well that you're like slowly coming to the surface.
We're coming off of that shock of the boys being arrested and being taken so easily. But then we're also coming off of the shock of Roland talking down to Jonas like that and seeing how much it's affected Jonas. So to have that, and then we're slammed into Susan, who's asleep, and everything like that. So yeah, there really is kind of like a dazed feeling almost as the reader, because you're just like, holy shit, what's going on? You know, kind of thing.
Yeah, totally discombobulated as you just shift.
Yeah, exactly.
The King's done that to us a lot, though.
He does it so well, and that's one of the major things I love about him, is being able to go from one subchapter following this character to another subchapter following a completely different character, but still feeling the reverberations and feeling like what the character's feeling. Oh, they're feeling disconnected? Well, so am I. Like, discombobulated and everything.
Yeah.
My note here is, have you ever been in a place that's usually calm and then had something happen that breaks that calm?
Yeah.
Like I remember an instance when I was a kid. I was in the public library here in Utah, in our city, and I just remember libraries, very quiet place, very very whisper and everything. And it was me, my mom, and my sisters, and an older gentleman had a medical emergency, and the pandemonium that happened with that, it was just so jarring, being in a place like that and having it erupt in chaos. Yeah. So I get what Susan's talking about here. It's very disconcerting to have that.
Because it's kind of funny because we all recognize it too without really having to be told. Because like you can almost sense it because
Yeah.
you just sense that change in like the mood, and because you start looking around like, what's wrong? Something's wrong here.
Yes, a perfect example that we've all experienced in our lives. When you go into a classroom of a very strict teacher, no talking, no notes. You're going to listen to me lecture for 40 minutes, and then you're going to get the hell out of my class. And there's a substitute in there.
Yeah.
And that substitute is a pushover that you can do whatever you want to them.
Yeah.
That's a very good example of what we're having here. Is like, it's just like, wait, I can act out, kind of thing in this classroom when I normally can't.
Yeah. David says there's also mentioned there was another instructor that was between Court when Court served and when his father served. I don't remember that, but it would make sense though, right? Because
Yeah.
You probably by the time that Court's dad wraps it up, Court's probably not necessarily old enough to be the teacher. I would assume that he would actually go through the whole thing.
He would be like
and then,
the apprentice to the teacher kind of thing.
That, or even go out and be a gunslinger for a bit and then come back and get some scars on you.
Do you think Court's a gunslinger?
Oh yeah. 100%.
Do you think he is?
100%.
I've never thought of him as a gunslinger.
Yeah, it's like Arlie Ermy, man. He's a Marine.
The drill that's interesting. I've never thought about Court as a gunslinger. I've never pictured him as a gunslinger. I've always pictured there's a difference between a drill sergeant and a frontline soldier. A drill sergeant's a different breed, that kind of thing. So I always just kind of pictured him as
I think he's
like that.
I think he's a gunslinger.
I guess he would
for sure.
would still technically probably be a gunslinger, right?
Yeah.
But if he took the test, who did he best to get his guns? Does he have guns? It doesn't seem like it's kind of breaking my brain right now.
Yeah. And then remind me, Fourth Legacy. Ben. Sorry, I keep forgetting. Ben said, I always had canon that Jonas took the test too soon out of ego and only to be humiliated like a bully who peaked early in high school. And I think I'm trying to remember, what was the was Court telling Roland your father was the youngest to take the test or pass the test? Because
I think it's take the test.
Okay, because if it's take the test, then that would, whatever. Headcanon's fun. You could do whatever.
Well, the big thing is that what Ben's saying here is that he took the test too soon. Remember, there is no set date that you have to take the test by except for your coming of age thing. So the thing would be is that you have to take the test when you're ready. If you failed the test, obviously you weren't ready. So maybe that's that's part of it is that okay, well, I'm going to take the test at 16 and a half.
Yeah.
Steven took it when he was 16 in one day, kind of thing. So
yeah. Let's see. And then Baraki said Jonas acted like that he is beyond hurt, but Roland called him back to a time and a place where he was indeed very vulnerable. And that's kind of what was intriguing to me about it, was you almost drew Jonas back to that childhood. It's it's kind of like the kid that wet his pants in first grade, and it's now he's a fucking Marine or something.
Yeah.
But something happens and suddenly he's brought back to that first grader that has a pissy pants, right?
Well, we've seen
no matter how much of a badass you are, sometimes those deep-seated traumas.
Yeah, we see that with veterans and stuff like that. Is they're the toughest guys. There's been auto accidents and they've dove right in to help someone from a burning fire. But man, the second the fireworks go off,
yeah,
all of a sudden it's they're back in the shit and everything like that. So I saw it in a guy's face one time at a fireworks show that there was a firework that went off. I think it went off a little prematurely. It was low. It didn't get up into the sky with the rest of them. It went off low, and I watched this guy in front of me. Dude, he ducked hard. And when he came up, he was shaking like a leaf. I'm like, that guy's seen some shit.
Yeah.
That guy absolutely has seen some shit. In the chat, Ben agrees with you. Court was absolutely a gunslinger. And then Baraki says, I'm surprised that anyone would not consider Court a gunslinger. It would take one to teach one. I imagine those in Court's position as semi-retired gunslingers. I just don't know. I don't know. Is Van A a gunslinger then?
Yeah, I think you got to be to teach
to
it.
teach them.
Yeah, and I would also say that there's part of me, and this is probably just purely headcanon, but I also think that those guys, Court and Van A, would almost be some of the highest regarded.
Yeah.
Right. You're being trusted with the future generations. Right?
Yeah, exactly. I guess I just think of it as a sports analogy. The manager is not exactly the one who I would picture being
Yeah, no,
You know,
I mean, there's
you
the
manage baseball team. It doesn't necessarily mean you're a prime baseball player. You know,
well,
kind of thing.
there is also the old
So
cliche in our world
know.
where it's like those who can't do teach.
Exactly.
You know? But I do think that's different in this world, and I do think that 100%.
I've never thought of Court as a gunslinger because I don't picture him, the big burly he is overweight, but it's all muscle kind of thing.
Yeah, he's like a
Whereas Alan's dad, Cuthbert's dad, and Steven's dad, dude, their descriptions down to a T are fucking cowboys.
Yeah.
So Court being a fucking like almost sumo wrestler kind of described guy, just kind of is like against the grain of everything. I mean, look at Roland's description. You know, Roland is a gunslinger.
Yeah.
Tall, thin, cowboy hat sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, and everything
when convenient.
when convenient, and King remembers and everything. So it's just like, I guess in my mind, it's just that he doesn't fit the image of a gunslinger.
Yeah.
And the same with like Van A. Van A teaches them philosophy and stuff
Magic
like that,
and
magic and stuff like
hypnotism.
that. That's not exactly the kind of stuff that I picture Steven being like, hey,
but
let me show you my tricks.
But the one thing that I will say, like kind of as a counter to the whole those who can't do teach, is you have to really fucking know something to teach it. Mm-hmm. Like you can't just have a passing knowledge of something to teach, because when you run into a student that like, okay, you teach it your one way, you know, and they're like, well, I don't get that. What do? Just repeat the exact same thing you just said?
Yeah.
Well, you do if you're a bad teacher. If you're a good teacher, though, you have kind of a full three-dimensional like view of it, to where you can now approach that from a different angle or a different side or a different whatever, and eventually you'll get through to them. Like, and so like I would say that like, and again, I would think Van A and Court would probably maybe even be more knowledgeable than most of your other gunslingers, and maybe that's why they were picked to be the teachers. Where it's like, okay, maybe a lot of the gunslingers have like a passing ability where like, yeah, I can hypnotize someone if I need to,
right?
But do I know it well enough that like I'm going to control a class of 15 kids hypnotizing each other at the same time, and I'm the one that has to pull their shit out if shit goes wrong, or I can teach them everything they need to know? I would say most gunslingers probably don't have that same knowledge. They can do it, but Van A knows it in a level that's like next level.
Oh yeah,
right?
he's Merlin.
Yes,
but Merlin wasn't a knight. And that's what I'm saying is like,
I think that's where it's tripping you up, maybe, is like the Merlin thing. But I do think that with those two, I think 100% they would be gunslingers.
Well, no,
wasn't there one of the gathering with like where his mom dances with flag? Isn't Court seen there?
That doesn't mean that he's not invited. It's not just gunslingers that are there, kind of thing. It's here's the thing. Gunslingers are like knights, right?
Yeah.
Who train knights?
I mean,
instructors. They weren't knights themselves. They were the instructors of knights.
Yeah, I don't.
And I'm not going to say that this is right. The Dark Tower wiki page says, although not a gunslinger himself, the title being reserved for the nobility and their sons, in Wizard and Glass it is mentioned that as a boy he had witnessed the defeat and subsequent exile of the trainee Eldred Jonas. So, but I could see the trainers of gunslingers being their own.
And
society, like class,
and I don't believe that, because I think even that had a very incorrect thing when it said sons of nobility, because not every person that's in these classes, Jonas is not from nobility. Like I think he's found and he's like recruited to be a potential gunslinger.
Yeah. Versus Roland, who was born into it.
Yes.
Cuthbert, who was born into it.
Yeah. So yeah, it's definitely a fun discussion, but I would say 100% they are. Now, of course, there are different kinds of gunslingers, right? Like, and again, though, I almost think that they would almost be the most highly regarded, because ultimately you are trusted with like the next generation. You're the future of Gilead and of the entire realm is on your shoulders, because if you started slipping and you let out a couple classes of shitty gunslingers, like that could be the end of society. So
David says he never thought that the teachers were gunslingers. So it's just, it's interesting that we've been doing this podcast for what, almost 10 years, and we've never talked that is Court a gunslinger.
Coming on 10 years. Yeah. 3 more months.
Yeah.
Well, less.
And we've been talking about this series a lot longer than that. That's never even come up then. So.
Yeah. It's funny because we both had the other sides of it too. It's funny when those random things where it's just like, never thought about it. All right, so going on, she asked Maria what was wrong, and Maria told her she needed to leave and Seafront was not safe for her right now, and her own house is probably better. She also says that she thought she had already gone, but picked a bad day to sleep in. Susan pulled the blanket up to her nose, puffy eyes staring wide at Maria as she asked what she meant by leave. Maria said, "Go out the back," like she did before, as she pulled the blanket down to Susan's ankles. She told her now to get dressed. She then said the boys are put away, but what if they had friends, and what if they come back and kill her too? Susan had been getting up now, but all the strength left her legs, and she laid back down on the bed, asked, "Boys kill who?" Not grammatically correct, but Maria took her meaning and said Dearborn and his pin boys. So I think that's funny because when you read that, you could read that as like, they killed who? The boys killed who? But when she's like, boys killed who? Like, she's trying to figure out what boys we're talking about.
Yeah.
So Susan asked who they were supposed to have killed. Maria said the mayor and the chancellor, and told Susan to get up and get gone. This place has gone loco. Susan said they did no such thing, and barely restrained herself from adding that it was not in the plan. Which you can't read plan without reading it in what's his name's voice. Arthur, I have a plan.
Dutch.
Maria said the two men were just as dead no matter who did it. There were more shouts from somewhere in the house, and then a sharp little explosion that didn't sound like a firecracker. Maria looked that way and threw Susan her clothes and said that the mayor's eyes were gouged right out of his head. Susan objected that they couldn't have, and she knew them. Maria said that she didn't know them or care. She only cared about Susan, and repeated to get dressed and get out as quickly as she could. Susan asked what happened to them, and they hadn't been killed, have they? Maria said she didn't think so, but there had been 1,000 shouts and 10,000 rumors going rounds. Yep. But she thought they were just jailed, but she trailed off. But Susan can fill in the blanks. Not killed yet, but Thorin had been greatly liked, and from a very old family, whereas the boys were strangers. Not killed yet, but tomorrow is reaping, and tomorrow night was reaping bonfire. Susan began to dress as fast as she could. So that's an ominous thing. That's an ominous thing to piece together there, Susan.
Yeah, right at the end, it's like, oh yeah, bonfires. Why would you think that?
Yeah, they're alive now, but tomorrow's the bonfire.
Wait, what?
Excuse me?
Yeah, they're alive now, but tomorrow's the giant pool of acid. Wait, what?
Pretty much. Oh, man, did I miss anything in the chat? While I was...
David said, Baraki said, I never picture Court as a sumo-like figure, old and grizzled with a crazy strong farm tough hardness with a permanent scowl, the kind of person you instantly know not to F with. And I was just saying, I responded back to him, but the way that he's described is shorter,
stout,
like what? Why?
The way I always pictured him is like the world's strongest man competitions.
Yes,
like
I said sumo, but that's really what I was meaning. Where you look at them and you know that guy could turn over a fucking 18-wheeler.
Google the comic.
Yes,
like drawing of Court, and like that's pretty well perfect. I think they got him perfectly.
And that's what I'm saying. Like the physical difference between Court and how Roland is depicted in all the pictures, and Steven and everything like that. That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
And then David said, the way Jamie is described in The Wind Through the Keyhole, he seems more like a police detective than a gunslinger. And that's the thing, is like Roland said that several times, is that gunslingers weren't just, guns.
No.
They were politicians, they were emissaries, they were
judges,
detectives, and everything.
Yeah, so my notes here, and that was the end of the subchapter, so my notes before we jump over to subchapter 8, her house is safer. I'm not sure about that, Maria. We've seen Cordelia recently, and I think that is probably the most dangerous place for Susan right now.
This is after the ash throwing thing.
That was last
episode, wasn't it?
So Cordelia has gone off the fucking deep end, and
She's nuts.
Imagine Susan goes back, and the fact is then
and now the mayor's dead.
Revealed to Cordelia the mayor's dead. She would kill Susan.
She would kill her.
She would kill her, 100%.
And of course, the rumors are flying. This is where I was wondering that the stories would be hundreds of years later, is because already, hours later, we have thousands and thousands of rumors.
Shouts and 10,000 rumors.
10,000 rumors. So already, it would not be hard for someone to be like, the boys are framed, for it to slip in there and be one of the prevailing theories, that they were framed. Someone like Langell was trying to seize power, because obviously someone's going to have to fill this void for the mayor.
But again, Langell's an insider.
No.
The boys are out. So.
I know, but here's what I'm saying. It's like, it's very easy to look at it as like, well, who benefited from the mayor being killed? Why would the boys benefit from that? Oh, Langell's the one who actually took over as mayor. He's the one who served as interim, and then
it would just be the crazy. It'd be the crazy old coot.
Absolutely. And I'm not saying that would be the majority, like we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
For every 100 people who believe the official story, there's those 10 that are going, that's too neat.
And David, we're talking about something different. We're talking about Cordelia putting ash on herself and then turning her stuffy guy into a female and then burning it.
And she threw ashes at Susan, right?
No, she put ash on herself. It was like
I thought she had like ashes in her hands and like threw it at her when she was on the horse and everything like that.
Oh, that was a couple chapters ago.
And then Susan reaches down and rubs ash onto her aunt's face and said, because she's figured out that she was complicit in Pat's murder.
That was a couple episodes ago.
Episodes ago. Yeah. Then after that was when she burned the stuffy guy because Susan knows that I was complicit. Something broke in Cordelia.
Yeah. So this is so chaotic. Susan isn't even able to reflect on the fact that Thorin is dead. And by reflect, I mean celebrate.
I like that.
She has every reason to. That tail end is not comforting at all. Just
we talked about
pointing
it. Yeah.
that back out. That is not a happy thought.
No.
It's like, what an odd thing to say.
Yeah. Why would you say that? All right, Subchapter 8. Reynolds, who had been with Jonas longer than DePape, took one look at the figure coming towards them and turned to his partner. Don't ask him any questions. He is not in the mood for silly questions this morning. DePape asked how he knew, and Reynolds said, never mind and just keep your ever-fucking gob shut. Jonas reined up before them. He was sitting slumped in the saddle, pale and thoughtful. How he looked prompted one question from DePape in spite of Reynolds' caution. Eldred, are you all right? Had to pause. Dude, come on. You were told to do one thing.
Yeah. And DePape is just fucking stupid. There's no two ways.
He's the one that started the whole Traveler's Rest thing, right?
Yeah, I believe so, yeah.
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 Fucking idiot.
Yeah, he's a moron.
All right, so going on. Is anyone snapped Jonas? Then he fell silent. Behind them, the Sitko's few remaining pumpers squalled tiredly. At last, Jonas roused himself and sat a little straighter in the saddle. He says the cubs will have been stored by now, and that he told Langle and Avery to fire a double set of pistol shots if anything went wrong. That's right. Avery's there at the bar K2, isn't he? It's not just Langle, but Avery gave command over to Langle as they went in. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
And there hadn't been any shooting like that. And they say they didn't hear anything else, Eldred DePape says. Jonas flared up, saying, you wouldn't hear anything over this racket. DePape bit his lip and decided there was something to adjust in the neighborhood of his left stirrup, so he goes and does that instead of talking to Jonas anymore. Dumbass. Jonas asked if they had seen anything with their if they were seen when they were doing their business that morning. Sending Reimer and Thorin off is what he meant. Reynolds shook his head and said 'twas as clean as could be. Jonas nodded as if he only slightly cared. He was looking at the oil patch and rusty derricks. Maybe folks are right, he said in a low voice, and the old people were devils. Well, we are with the devils now, ain't we, Clay? Reynolds agrees, and Jonas asks about Quint and his men. Reynolds says they're still there awaiting orders. Jonas says there's no need for them now. Dearborn is a brat, and Jonas wishes he was in Hambury tomorrow night, just so he could lay a torch between his feet. And that he almost left him cold and dead at the bar K if it wasn't for Langle. Cozy little brat. DePape, now done fixing his stirrup, glanced nervously at Reynolds. Reynolds didn't answer him in any way. What's the point? If Jonas had really gone crazy, there wouldn't be time to get out of the killing zone.
Okay. Also, I just double checked. David is correct.
What's up?
The ashes with Cordelia is not till next episode.
Oh, okay. I could have sworn that she had a confrontation where she...
They had the confrontation in the room in like what's her in the dad's office.
in the dad's office. That's right. Okay.
Yeah. So, little spoiler there.
Apologies.
But I thought like she put ashes on herself too, and like during the whole fucking freak out last time
with the scarecrow, with the stuffy guy,
like sackcloth and ashes type stuff. But yeah, indeed. So my notes here still, DePape is not getting the hint. Jesus, dude, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, right.
And David said Roy is a dumbass. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yes, he is. If they had been seen, they would have killed whoever saw them, right?
Yeah.
Anyone. Like, it doesn't matter.
No
like,
one.
Which
honestly would not be a bad
then
thing.
They would have just wrapped that on the kids, too.
Yeah.
Right? If it would have been all of Thorin.
Look, they killed Maria on the way out
or
because
Olive.
She was coming to change
anyone,
Yeah.
Anyone outside of their group would have seen them. So, like, and that's probably why he's asking, right? It's like, hey, do we got any more fucking heads on the table that, whatever. I guess underestimating the boys only go so far. They had another gaggle of goons ready to ambush the boys.
Yep.
So,
Well, that was also remember, these are the guys who are protecting the last 2 tankers.
yeah.
Who were this is supposed to be the bait
Yeah.
for them to come out there and try and destroy
Yeah.
the tankers.
But if they would have escaped
Yeah.
there, they probably would have went right for the fucking Sitgo, right?
Absolutely.
Like, so, just, I mean, if nothing else, if you're Clay, if you're Jonas, that's going to be your suspicion where it's like, hey, my most valuable thing, I'm putting men there in case they escape, like, and they go there, they'll get fucking bushwhacked, and they're off the board type thing. So, I think that is a little bit of a leap in logic that they would go there. But again, when you're hyper fixated on the most important thing of my mission, like, you're probably going to be like, they'll go there.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of like the whole when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. It's like, okay, when you're so hyper fixated on one thing you've got to protect, like, you're gonna be like, well, that's the first place they'll go. They're gonna go for that. They'll go right for that.
Yep. And then my note here, man, Roland really got to Jonas, didn't he? He is all kinds of messed up.
Yeah, he is, and I really can't wait to see an actor's portrayal on this because I truly believe they're almost gonna be playing 2 characters. Jonas before and Jonas or maybe even 3. Jonas early before the Traveler's Rest, Jonas from the Traveler's Rest to this moment and this moment on, because I do think this should look like a completely different character.
Oh, yeah.
Like, because this should shake him in a way, and I know we can't get a lot of the internal monologue in a series. So in that point, the actor should almost play it in almost like a shell shock kind of way where it's like he just seems different and off, and like if it's a good enough actor, that doesn't even have to be super overt stuff.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things where it's like you spent almost a whole season with this character, and suddenly it's like, God, he is different, man. Like, you don't even
Honestly,
have to hear. You don't even have to
yeah.
be in his head like we are with King here to understand. Like, he's fucked.
I'm starting to think more and more. The more we go through this, and the more there is to put on the plate for this book. Like when you're talking about an adaptation,
Acting.
dude, this might end up being 2 seasons.
Yeah, I don't know.
This very well. If you're looking at only 8 to 10 episodes. There's a lot to chew on in this book.
Yeah.
There's a lot here. You could very easily leave season 1 with the
first season of this book, you mean?
Yeah, the first
Not
season.
one.
Yeah, the first season of this book, like the first season, whether it's season 3 or 4,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
Of the
I think it'll only
of
be
the
one
series.
season. And I that's gonna be tough because like you're gonna basically have to compress.
Yeah.
But whatever. When you think about like in like movies and TV, the golden rule is don't waste time.
Right.
So it's like when you're talking about, you said let's call it 8 episodes. If that's 8 hours, you've got to pick each of those minutes very specifically to cover the specific things. Now you might see some things like crush or stretch in terms of time to adapt to whatever. Like 3 months might now be a month because it works better for the I don't know
For the pacing of the show.
Yeah, we'll see. But like I think they can get it done in 1, but it'll be a stuffed fucking season.
It's well. The other thing also is that we have to consider is that each book in and of itself does not necessarily mean okay, that's going to be a season.
Yeah.
You could see half of this be a season and the other half be in another season, and then the Wolves of the Kala be 2 seasons or 1 season or half a season. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah. So yeah, even on a normal day, Jonas is ill-tempered, but so this follows like that he's shaken, so now he's way more whatever. So Jonas intended to be out of here before reaping fair, not even sticking around for the execution.
Because remember, it's the town folks that need to get their justice, not the
I know,
Coffin
but
Hunters.
like that could be a larger plan out of his hands in terms of his timeline. Could have been dictated by Latigo, but if not, this is more underestimating them. This is some Dr. Evil level stuff where it's like, all right, well, everything will go fine. Let's close the door and
let me go get the gun from my room and we'll shoot him right here in front of each other.
Yeah, because I do think this is underestimating him. Like, I'm not saying the town is incompetent, but you're telling me there's no chance that the town is going to let something go and now they're going to be on your back trail following.
I think he's kind of got it buttoned up. I know that where you're coming from with this one, but I think that he's kind of got a point to be like, hey, we got to get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
If we stay around and gloat, all of a sudden questions might start getting asked. Let's get our shit and get the fuck out of here. We did what we came to do.
This feels like classic villain, though, where it's like, everything will work out fine. Let's close the door and move on.
Close the door. He's in there with 1 henchman. Nothing can go wrong.
I also love the understanding that if Jonas snaps are both fucked in this circumstance.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
there's no getting out of the kill zone.
No, not at all.
So going on, Reynolds spoke softly, saying that they had a spot more to do. Jonas straightened and took off his hat and brushed his fingers through his hair. He agrees, a bit more to do. He tells them to ride down and tell Quint to send for oxen and to pull the last 2 full tankers out to Hanging Rock. Keep 4 men to hook them up and take them to Latigo. The rest can go on ahead. Reynolds asks when the rest of Latigo's men get there. We'll get there. Jonas flared up because they're only boys. Every little thing is setting him off right now. Just every little thing is rubbing Jonas the wrong way, isn't it? He says they will ride out to Hanging Rock by moonlight. They'll be ready to do escort duty by 10 tomorrow. But if the boys are anything like he suspects, there will be delays because they are fuck-ups. I know we've been talking about the boys, meaning Roland and Cuthbert and Alan. That is not who he's talking about. He's talking about Latigo's boys.
Latigo's boys, not men, yeah.
Not men. The good news is they don't need them anyway. Things look well in hand now to get them moving, he says. Jonas turned and looked toward the lumpy swell of hills to the northwest. Then he says they have business of their own. Soon as it's begun, soon as done. And that he wants to shake the dust of Mejis off his hat and boots as soon as he can. He doesn't like the way it feels anymore. Not at all.
Yeah, indeed. David said sometimes I almost like Reynolds. Almost. I mean, I do think there's actually some common sense to him more than you get with DePape.
Yeah.
So but again, yeah, he's still kind of a shitty person, right? Like the whole cloak thing. It's just whatever. But at the same time, he's far more likable than DePape. It's kind of one of those when you're next to a fucking absolute fucking dipshit, you look a little bit smarter.
Yeah. Baraki says, of the Coffin Hunters, he's the one with anything approaching good qualities, and I'm glad we get to hear some of his internal thoughts. He is Trig.
Yeah. So my notes, so boys, not men, does that show that Farson's forces are being depleted, or is this just that he doesn't see this as that big of or that important of a mission to waste good men on? Or is this more of Latigo's level, who has his own detachment, and he's the one sending his boys for this? It just kind of makes me wonder, because it kind of reminds me of World War II, toward the end of the war, and it's only old men and boys fighting type thing
for Germany.
So it's for Jonas to be flipping out and saying oh, these are all fucking kids and they're all idiots. It's okay, so are Farson I mean, I'm sure he's got men spread everywhere, but it's you'd expect this to be a very critical mission. So I almost wonder if maybe it was Latigo, where it's hey, you've got your detachment. And then he is the dumbass that's going, okay, I'm going to send some boys to help Jonas with this. Because I feel like Farson would be smarter than this and not send children.
I think it's more of he doesn't want the gunslingers getting whiffed of it. If Farson's best men all of a sudden are heading to Mejis, all of a sudden everyone's going to go,
yeah,
what's in Mejis?
Kind of the Patton thing.
Yeah, what's over there?
The deception of D-Day, of putting Patton up in Norway or wherever it was.
You put Patton somewhere, and that's what
they
Farson's
assume
doing.
that's where the landing's going to be.
Yeah, because when you think about it, this is supposed to be a cakewalk mission.
Yeah.
This isn't supposed to be hard. There's not supposed to be gunslingers here or anything like that. So you send the boys to go do it and everything like that. So that's where that's my logic, is that Farson doesn't need his top-notch men.
Yeah.
Yes, it is critical, but also it's supposed to be a fucking cakewalk.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's true.
I mean, everyone in Mejis who is anyone is on their side. They're all traitors. So
yeah, traitors.
And then I said, "Oh, Jonas is getting nervous all of a sudden, very nervous. Like he wants to dust the boots." Dust off of his boots and hat, and he wants to be fucking gone.
And to me, that makes sense. It's always right when everything you have planned begins to go into motion that you get the most nervous.
Especially when it all goes off without a hitch.
Yeah.
They took the boys, there was no fighting, no one got shot, everything went off without a hitch. Except what Roland said to him. Except what Roland figured out. All of a sudden, there's just that one little wrench thrown in there.
Yeah, indeed. So let's go over to Subchapter 9, one that we've been awaiting for a long time.
Oh, God.
So the woman, Teresa Maria Dolores O'Shaven, was 40, plump, pretty, mother of 4, wife of Peter, a laughing vicaro.
I am a laughing.
She sold rugs and draperies in the upper market, and I would say just King does a brilliant job of writing this here, because the fact that her name is 4 names long, I feel like right there, he doesn't even have to tell you any more to understand that she's probably a little bit higher up in society, right? I just think that, she's in the first class of the Titanic if she's on the Titanic, right? There's just that vibe you get. And then the fact that she sells rugs and draperies, which are things that only rich people probably have, and especially they're nicer. And the upper market, everything about this, King just keeps unraveling this, and you just get the sense of who this woman is. I love it. Just brilliant writing from King.
It's every time you have a flag in each hand. Peasant or closer to nobility, and
Yeah.
you're just raising that one flag every time.
You could throw the other one away.
Yeah.
And many of the better things at Seafront had passed through her hands. So again, Seafront probably has the best of the best because that's
what they are.
Yeah, that's the mayor's house, right? That's the big thing. She was well-to-do despite her husband being a range rider, and in another time and place, she would have been called middle class, which is funny because that means a much different thing nowadays.
Yes, it does.
It did when this was probably written. Her oldest children had grown and gone. Her oldest two children had grown and gone, one right out of the barony, and her third was hoping to marry before year's end. Only her youngest suspected something was wrong with her and had no idea how close to a complete obsessive madness that she had. Rhea thought soon as she watched this woman from the ball, she would do it soon as she got rid of that brat. There was no school, and the booze were not open for long. The Reap booze were not open for long yet. So her youngest daughter had been sent with a pie to as a Reap-tide gift to the neighbor. Rhea suspected, but the ball was only visual. She didn't actually hear anything. It was a big house, and there were many corners to be cleaned, Rhea thought and laughed, which turned into coughing. Musty looked at the emaciated skeleton that Rhea had become, and Musty was in bad shape himself, but nowhere near as bad as Rhea was. In the ball, the little girl looked worriedly back at her mother before having the door shut in her face. Rhea then said, "Now, them corners is a-waitin'. Down on your knees, woman, and get to business." Teresa went to the window and was satisfied her daughter was out the gate and down the high street. She moved back to the kitchen, and Rhea shouted to hurry, and as if hearing her, Teresa unbuttoned her house dress, stepped out of it and laid it over the chair and pulled her shift up over her knees and got down on all fours. Rhea cheered the whole time. Teresa moved her head out, opened her mouth, and let her tongue out and began licking the corners. She lapped them like Musty did milk. Rhea began laughing and slapping her knees in delight. Teresa was her favorite. She would crawl around for hours licking corners, praying to some obscure god for her penance. Sometimes she got splinters in her tongue and had to pause to spit blood into the kitchen basin. Until now, she had a sixth sense to always be done and dressed before anyone got home, but Rhea knew at some point she would get caught. Rhea wanted to see it and hoped this might be the day. Jeez. Oh my God. Here are my notes here. Stephen King, I feel like his stuff is so good so often because his stuff can just at times just be so weird to be anything but real. Lesser writers write shameful things for characters, but it feels like there's like 5 or 6 things that everyone uses for shameful things, and they just feel cliche because it's like, oh, okay, that's what it feels
let
cliche.
me just pull from one from the list. It's always the same 5.
Yeah, exactly. So it just kind of feels, it's like, why does every grocery bag in every TV show always have the fucking French bread sticking out of it?
Yep.
Like, you tell me everyone eats French bread?
Yep.
It's
all the time.
Yeah,
every time,
every store trip. Yeah,
yeah.
But they always seem to be drawn from the same short list. So to have one unique, and it is so fucking unique.
Yes.
It's like it feels like it has to be real. Like, how do you make this
right.
up?
I have an actual old post about this on social media. Is like, why is it always that a college professor is a piece of shit sleeping with a student?
Yeah,
like a good-looking, not like ancient college professor, but one who's in his like 40s
or 50s. Yeah,
always has a student that I need an A professor. You know,
yeah.
Like, what the hell? Why is there that stereotype? You know, kind of thing. So, this is the stuff of what King is great at, and it gets to me because it can actually happen.
Yeah,
is this kind of shit? This little bit messed up. She's obviously not hurting anyone.
No,
but
except
if you
for herself.
But if you cutting your tongue.
Yeah.
That's the part. Oh, God.
I wish Hayden was here to hear that.
We should mention it to him. We could.
Or just hope that the series gets made and we get to this season. Because you know Flanagan's doing this, right?
Let's not mention it and then see what his reaction is if it does get made.
Because you know Flanagan's...
When it does get made, sorry.
Because you know Flanagan's doing this, right?
Oh, yeah.
There's no way he's not. My last note here before we move on. Also, it is just like Rhea to be cheering for the moment Teresa is discovered in doing it.
Of course, that's what she wants, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Piece of shit.
So then, finishing off the subchapter, then suddenly Teresa was gone for the first time in weeks. The wizard's glass had gone blank. Rhea picked up the ball in her scrawny fingers and shook it, asking what was wrong with it. The ball was heavy, and her strength was fading. After 2 or 3 hard shakes, it slipped from her grip, but she caught it against her deflated remains of her breasts, trembling. So that's a fun thought. She then coddled the ball, telling it to come back when it was good and ready, and that she had lost her temper but never meant to shake it or drop it. She then cut it off. Then she is cut off as she hears horses approaching, but not just approaching here. 3 riders, it sounded like. The boys. She held the boys, ? She held the ball close to her eyes wide. She held the ball close with her eyes wide and her lips wet. I'm not sure what lips we're talking about there. That's just for you, Peter.
Disgusting.
So fucking gross, dude. Obviously, it's her mouth lips because the snake's dead, so.
Ermot's not there to get the
That
old
can't happen anymore.
to get the juices flowing.
God, Dad! People will hear this, man.
Oh man.
Have you no shame?
Oh, her hands were now so thin the pink of the ball shone through her hands. That's pretty crazy. It was always one of my favorite things as a kid, though, when you got that really bright flashlight.
And you could
put it up and see through it, see your bones and stuff. A voice called her name. No, not the boys. The voice called for her to come out and bring what she was given. Worse than the boys. The voice said Farson wanted his property back, and they have come to take it. The big Coffin Hunters. And then I got a direct quote from the book. Never, ye old dirty white-haired prick, she whispered. You'll never take it. Her eyes rolled from side to side in small shooting pecks. Scraggle-headed and trembled mouth, she looked like a diseased coyote driven to its final arroyo. She looked down at the ball, whining, and a whining noise began to escape her. Now even the pink glow is gone. The sphere was as dark as a corpse's eyeball.
That's a thought.
That's a
an
fun
image.
thought.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not sure this is going to go well, but I'm pretty ready to see Rhea dispatched. Like I remember the first time reading this being like, "Hey, here's the end of Rhea. She's so fucking addicted to this thing. Like this isn't gonna be an easy thing." And like and there's part of me that was just hoping, like, please just shoot her. Like just absolutely fucking. The first time reading it, I was just like, got my little bit like not what do you call them? The little pennants.
Yeah.
Kill her. Kill her.
David says, I can hear Frank narrating this in my head. He was the goat talking about the corner licking.
Yeah.
And then Brocky says, #Tad is terrible. Agamorphy says, ew. And then Brocky says, indeed, I miss Frank.
You're welcome.
You're so gross, dude.
And then my last note, also what a chapter.
I just put so yucky. This is this vile, disgusting chapter, and I'm glad we're past it.
Been waiting for months.
A shriek came from the hut, and we're in subchapter 10 now.
Subchapter 10, yeah.
DePape turned to Jonas with eyes wide and skin prickling. The shriek didn't sound human. Rhea, Jonas called, bring it out here now, woman, and hand it over. I've no time to play games with you. The door swung open. DePape and Reynolds drew their guns as the old crone stepped out, blinking against the sun, as if she had spent her whole life in a cave. She was holding John Farson's favorite toy high over her head. There were plenty of rocks in the dooryard that she could smash it against. Even if she missed the rocks, it might smash anyway. This could be bad, Jonas thought. There are people you can threaten and some who couldn't be threatened. He had been so focused on the brats, who had actually been taken remarkably easy, it never occurred to him that Rhea would be an issue. Reimer was one who had suggested Rhea, and he can't lay it at his feet if something happened. Just to make things worse, DePape drew his hammer back.
Yeah, not sounding human as she shrieked is just full on witchery. Honestly, throughout the story, Rhea has not done a ton of magic, but especially as emaciated as she is, this just feels like a spell.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't feel like she'd be able to project.
Actually scream.
Yeah, exactly.
Her voice hasn't been used that much.
Yeah, I mean, she's used some magic here and there. It's,
Yeah.
this isn't like Peter Jackson level of cutting all the fucking magic out.
Right.
But it just overall, like we've seen witches in media that have been far more witchy than she is. So
Absolutely.
now, attitude-wise, she's fully there.
100% a witch. Threatening Rhea definitely wouldn't go well. I know that for a fact. We spent enough time with Rhea to know.
I mean, that's what Susan did. Susan threatened her.
Yeah. She threatened with like Thorin and everything
Yeah,
backing her. So
yeah, exactly.
look how that turned out.
Yeah, so Jonas overlooked Rhea, and with Reimer gone, had no scapegoat if this goes poorly. Also, with the reputation Farson has, I'm not sure this would work out well for the Coffin Hunters' health if this ball is damaged or destroyed while in their keeping. Because he doesn't care. I gave it to you to take care of. Like, it's not my fault you handed it off to a witch that destroyed it. Like that.
What were you thinking?
And like the thing is, I don't think their death would be quick either.
No,
with
this
Farson.
would be a. You're gonna pay.
Yeah. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Also, I just wanted to call it out here. This is what we were talking about a little bit earlier with Jonas just not thinking clearly with the boys. That they took up all of his thought that he didn't think about Rhea at all.
Yeah, he overloaded his
Yeah.
mind with this, that he's completely ignored Rhea and probably one of the most important aspects of this entire thing, right?
Yeah,
Because even if he delivers all the oil and everything, all the horses, everything, but the ball is gone, I still don't think your health is going to be very good for...
See, that's what I didn't want to say it earlier because we had never... There was no allusion to this subchapter yet, but you were saying, like, the oil is the most important thing, and it's like, is it? We have that question of what's the hierarchy for the things that Farson wants from this? The horses, the oil, the oxen, or the ball? I think the ball's the most important.
I think the
right?
ball has its like effect of like, you know, like what it's I almost picture it like the Hitler, like the whole like media thing that they I don't know if it was real, but the whole that Hitler was in like all into the occult stuff, right?
Oh, yeah.
And Indiana Jones plays into that a lot. And
Yeah.
stuff. There's like that, but at the same time, like the oil and the machines is what's going to destroy the affiliation within a year.
Right.
So like I do believe that truly that is the most important if it were logically seen. But there is the element of illogic that comes along with the ball because it is very Lord of the Rings-ish and very One Ring.
Also,
so.
we have to remember that Farson is batshit crazy. So,
Yes,
you know,
there is that as well.
batshit crazy for wanting democracy. Wait, no, he's the bad guy. I still have a hard time with that sometimes.
Yeah,
Jonas snapped at him to put it away because remember, DePape pulled his gun. But look at her, DePape said. He almost moaned. Look at her, Eldred. Jonas was looking. The thing in the black dress appeared to be wearing the corpse of a putrefying snake around its throat like a necklace.
Good night, sweet prince.
No.
for our beloved Ermont.
No. She was so scrawny that she looked like a walking skeleton. Her peeling skull was only tufted with hair. The rest had fallen out. Sores clustered on her cheeks and brow. There was a mark like a spider bite on the left side of her mouth. Jonas thought it might be a scurvy bloom. Jonas didn't care one way or the other. He cared about the ball that was raised in the dying woman's long, shriveling claws.
Brocky, Sneckle Nicholas. Oh, I love it.
Sneck, Nicholas. Sneck.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
Don't step on Sneck.
David says he doesn't really want democracy. He just wants it as a way to ease the minds of the people he's conquering, which that's probably...
That makes sense.
Yeah, that's something we've thought about for sure. So.
And in honor of my wife, who is terrified of it, fuck scurvy. That...
Once you watch a YouTube video?
Nope.
And...
We, it came up randomly one time about 1.5 years, 2 years ago. I was talking about rabies and how much it terrifies me. We talked about that earlier. Rabies? I can't remember if it was Reynolds or DePape that was like, ugh.
Yeah.
I am terrified of rabies. She is terrified of scurvy because of just random thing crossed our thing talking about what scurvy was and how it happened and then what it does to your body.
Yeah.
Ever since then, anytime the word scurvy is muttered around her, she shudders. She just cannot imagine a disease.
Noted.
I've told you this before.
No,
oh, no, really?
No.
Oh, yeah, she fucking hates scurvy. Because the idea is that if you have a scar, your body is so malnourished from the vitamins of, like citrus. That's why a lot of the pirates' rum was citrusy.
Yeah.
Is that your scars would just break open.
Yeah.
And you'll basically fall apart.
Yeah.
Your body just falls apart.
Kind of like, what's his name in Lud?
Yeah.
Old Gasher.
Gasher sounds an awful lot like scurvy. You're right.
Yeah.
Those whore blossoms is what they called them.
Yeah.
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 Damn, I never thought about that. Is that scurvy?
Maybe.
Oh, scurvy's bad.
I really have a hard, and I wouldn't imagine there's a lot of citrus in this world. So
Probably not.
I have a really hard time imagining what she looks like here, but I also can't wait to see it come to life on screen. It should be very grotesque.
I think of the Tales from the Crypt guy.
The Crypt Keeper.
Yeah, the Crypt Keeper.
He used to tell me bedtime stories.
I know, and that's the reason you turned out the way you did, you sick fuck.
And also, these are hard men who have seen and done crazy things, so for them to be so off-put by her really tells you what she must look like.
Yeah. Man, we knew she was in bad shape, but holy hell.
Yeah.
Like just... She has no hair.
Yeah.
She has scurvy, for God's sake.
Yeah.
You know, like, you're so malnourished that your skin is literally falling apart.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
So, by the way, that's the end of Subchapter 10.
Yeah, it's a short one.
I'm still going to do Subchapter 11 because they tie so much together. The sun was dazzling Rhea so much she didn't see the gun pointed at her. And by the time her vision cleared, DePape had put it away. She surveyed them. The bespectacled redhead the one in the cloak, and old white-haired Jonas. She uttered a dusty croak of laughter. She had been afraid of them? Afraid of these mighty Coffin Hunters? She supposed she had been, but for God's sakes, why? They were just men. Just men, and she had been beating men all her life. Oh, they thought they ruled the roost all right. Nobody in Midworld accused anyone of forgetting the face of their mother, did they? But they were men, like all the other poor things at bottom, moved to tears by a sad song and utterly undone by the sight of a bare breast. The glass was dark, and as much as she hated to see it dark, it cleared her mind to have it dark. It cleared her mind. Jonas, she calls. He responded with long days and pleasant nights. She says, never mind, ye sops, time's too short for them. She shuffled forward 4 steps and stopped with the ball still over her head. Jonas asked what she wanted. She said that the ball had gone dark. All the time I've had it, it was lively, even if it was not showing anything. I can make
Which,
out...
of course, is a lie.
Yeah, absolutely.
We know that because we saw
Absolutely.
it go dark on her for, almost a week or so when she went nuts on it?
Yeah, I mean, she's a witch, so
Yeah.
of course she lies. With
Witches are known liars.
Yeah, exactly. Even if it wasn't showing anything, I can make out it was bright and pink. But it went dark at the sound of your voice. It doesn't want to go with ye. Jonas said, nevertheless, his orders were to take it. His voice had become soft and consolidating. I think that's how you say that. The voice he had used with Coral. He goes on to say, look at it from his perspective, that he can't stand against what Farson wants. He is going to be be the most powerful man in Midworld by Demon Moon next year.
So I guess I did jump ahead a little earlier when I said that this, like, everything's going down in a year, because that's what reveals that to us.
That's it right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
If he goes back without it because Rhea of the Coups refused him, he'll be killed. Rhea says if she goes back and tells him that she broke it, he will be killed too. Again, to your point, you're the one that chose to give it to a witch, is what Farson will say.
Yeah.
She had gone close enough for Jonas to see the sickness and how it had eaten into her. Above the few remaining tufts of her hair, the ball trembled back and forth. She wouldn't be able to hold it much longer. Jonas felt a dew of sweat spring out on his forehead.
Yeah. I love her read on men. They seem to have all the power and authority in this society, but she's found them easily manipulated and controlled.
Which honestly happens a lot.
Oh, yeah, for sure, for sure. The thing is, she's so fucking delusional because of it. By this point, she's probably truly thinks the ball doesn't want to go with them. It feels very One Ring from Lord of the Rings. Jonas also using the same voice for Rhea as he did for Cordelia. That's fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
She does like talented tongues, I hear. So. All I can think of now is the Robin Hood thing when he's like hissing in the king's ear.
Yeah.
His stuff hissing in my ear.
Yeah.
Rhea would be saying a little bit different than her ear, but stop hissing. Yeah. Yes. So this Farson plan to overthrow the affiliation is happening inside of a year. That's again a huge revelation.
I mean,
we knew that this is going to destroy the affiliation, but we didn't necessarily know. Is this like a long-term plan? Is this like over the next couple years?
No, Roland says it very early on when they figure out about the oil after going to Sitco and everything like that. He's like, they'll roll over the affiliation in months.
Yeah, but it's a matter of
weeks or months.
But it's a matter of when they actually execute on it, though.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, yes, once they actually start using it. But I guess my thing was, were they planning to actually roll this out very quickly, or is this like you kind of let it build to like the end is here, and you string them along to a certain point, and then just have them run into that fucking hammer?
No, like they knew. Like Roland says it earlier. Like he plans to destroy them in these mountains. He says the name of the mountains. It starts with a C. Like the Cascal Mountains or something like that.
Well, yeah, because that's where they said they had to go to like refine the fuel or whatever, too.
Right.
So,
but he's going to draw them into a trap, and he's going to destroy them there. So this is not something that's going to take long to do.
No, and
Farson wants this over.
And I'm not saying that it needs to take long, but I'm just wondering if it was something they would string the affiliation along to bleed them a little bit more, maybe turn more people against them, and like the end, like if this gets out of this town, the war's over, but it's a matter of how long until like that fucking hammer drops was the thing. And it sounds like from at least what Jonas thinks, like that's going to happen very quickly.
Yeah,
like,
that's what Roland was saying earlier, is that it's weeks or months at the most. He says that earlier.
Yeah, but I think he's saying that like when they use this, it'll be the end of the war. Like it'll end it quickly. But I guess for me though, sometimes you have those aces in the hole, and like Farson so far has proven to be very strategic and very whatever, and like maybe he wants to like gain a little bit more of a following to where when the affiliation's crushed, he's got the following.
He has a lot less that he has to go and conquer.
Yeah.
Of people who were loyal to the affiliation.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily that I'm saying that it would take him that long, like whatever. It's just a matter of like when does he push the big red button, essentially.
I don't think Farson's that kind of smart. I think he's gonna destroy them as soon as possible.
I mean, he's smart enough to send the ball away and stuff. He's been very crafty. We haven't seen a lot from him, but there's been some craftiness to him where it's like, I'm not going to underestimate you. You seem like the kind of guy that would like have 10 moves planned out and like everything just falls into place and you're just like, yep. And you're just, and like,
he's like a Thrawn level kind of guy.
Yeah. And the affiliation thinks that like maybe even the war is going their way and like, oh, we're about to go conquer them in these mountains.
No, but the affiliation knows that they're losing the war. They say that several times. Like this war's not going well.
Yeah. But
so it's like, I don't see how Farson can turn it to make them think that.
But I also think that's like Roland was told that in a very confidence way from his dad. I don't know that everyone has that thought. I think there is like a thought
I think Farson knows it.
No, 100%.
That's why he's looking for a death blow.
Yes.
I don't know why he would wait to deliver that death blow. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You know,
strategies.
If you have the bomb, you use the bomb. That you know, you don't wait for it to look like Japan might win. No, you drop the bomb and you end the war. That's what you do.
Yeah, it's a different kind of war, though. He's playing a weird war with you're also like turning a society against the standing order to your side. Like
I think it's still a war of annihilation, though, where he has to destroy everything that is gunslinger related.
Yeah, but I think that I almost think it's like a Mongolian thing where they would do the thing where they like go to like hit a town and then they'd flee and then wait for the army of the town to go follow them to wipe them out.
Yeah, that's the idea.
And again, so make the gunslingers think that Farson's on the ropes and like, hey, my last forces are up in these mountains. We're gonna get wiped out. And then when the gunslingers go, those fucking machines are there and they just grind them into fucking bacon.
I think what it would be more realistic would be is that Farson finally congregates all of his armies together, because that's the big thing is he keeps splitting his forces at the right time. We see that when we have the flashback about Steven telling him about the grapefruit. He's like, it's like he's 2 steps ahead of us. Like he knows when to split his forces. He knows when to move. He knows when to not fight. He knows when to fight. So to have them all together and vulnerable, I think that's where they're going to be like, this is our only chance to turn this war around. I think that's what Farson does. And he doesn't wait for that. He doesn't wait. He takes his opportunity. And he just
I don't know. I could have easily seen him stringing them along to kind of like it's also like the Palpatine thing. You know, bleed the Jedi. Let that war last 3 years. Like, you know, it just
but it's a completely different scenario there.
Yeah, just like the atomic bomb, it's a completely different scenario. I'm just saying that ultimately, until now, we've not known for sure.
No, the atomic bomb fits better than Palpatine because it's a knockout punch. You go up and you punch him in the mouth and you knock him down and you knock him out.
Like having all the clones right around the Jedi, they could have just called that Order 66 at the very first day and wiped the entire Jedi Order out.
Was there enough?
Oh, yeah.
Not every single Jedi was there and around clones, though. If you're talking Attack of the Clones,
I mean, this is a tangent. I'm just saying that ultimately, there's nothing that told us. I mean, it told us the war was going to be over once that plan went into effect.
Right.
But when the plan was actually going to get executed, that's where there was some ambiguity until now. Like as far as Jonas is concerned, like this is happening out inside of a year because Demon Moon is Reap. So by next Reap, this shit's over.
Right.
So
that's what I'm saying is I don't see where you got the idea that it would take longer than that.
Not that it would take
because it never hints at that. It never says that anywhere.
Again, it's not that it takes that. It's that when is he going to execute the plan? That's the ultimate thing. Because to me, Farson is a Thrawn type where he's like, and he's using the glass, which gives him an unfair advantage. Right. But like, yeah, I don't know. Roland's not here to see this, so it doesn't really matter. Like whatever. But yeah, I don't know. Where I lost
David says Jedi rings nerds. Yeah, that's us.
Pretty much.
Getting us back on track from that tangent. Oh man, I would not want to be that close to Rhea. Fuck that, being that close to her.
Can you imagine the smell?
No, I don't want to. No, thank you. No.
We covered that a few chapters back or a few episodes back with Musty was starting to get like off put by the whole thing. And like I'm not saying that cats are dirty animals.
No, they are very clean animals.
They are, but they are also very tolerant of very disgusting smells and whatever.
They can deal with them. I mean, animals are adaptable. Let's be perfectly honest. Most animals are adaptable, but cats. I have cats. I've seen it where they're cleaning themselves, and then you pet them, and they're just like, "You motherfucker! I just cleaned that."
But also I had a job with like medical equipment at one point.
Oh yeah,
ages ago, and there I've seen some pretty disgusting and horrendous houses, and like there are cats there, like whatever. So
I mean, they don't really have a choice, do they? If you're stuck in that house, you're stuck in that house. So
yeah, so I don't know. Just I can imagine it was bad then, and we've also now gone probably another month in there in the world since then. So I can only imagine what that.
In the heat of the end of summer, well, no, this would be into fall, so
yeah,
it's swampy too. Ugh.
Yeah,
it's wet,
real muggy,
moist, if you will.
Yes.
For those who love that word.
Yes, indeed.
Jonas is in a tough spot here, isn't he?
I heard Irmont liked the word moist.
He used to before he got his head shot off. Piece of shit.
Too soon.
Have we ever seen Jonas this nervous?
The Traveler's Rest,
Dude,
probably.
He's like sweating.
I mean, but the Traveler's Rest, because I think it's for different reasons. This is ultimately the end of their lives at Farson's hand. But the Traveler's Rest, he understood like this could unravel everything because like the mystique that he had built around them is now gone, and there is also the potential that whole thing could have gone down in a way that they died. So like. Very similar, but maybe a different kind of fear because now it's like the higher fear of like. Yeah. Farson, because we've kind of gotten the sense that Farson is, not the most merciful person.
No, he's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
David says that it's Vicastus Mountains. That is 100% what it was.
Yes. And then also with Flag, maybe also as well when Flag showed up. Jonas,
that's probably when
Jonas
we saw
was
him
pretty
the most nervous.
Yeah, he was completely like. It short circuited him.
Yeah,
like he was completely
was broke.
Yeah, exactly. So, so we've seen it a little bit from him, but it's definitely rare. Like, what did we come up with? 3 things, including this one, over this entire fucking thing that we've just covered, spent the last 28 episodes talking about. So,
so Jonas says, he is in a tough spot, but if he's given a choice on deaths, he will choose to take the cause of his problems with him. And just a reminder, that is Rhea. She croaked again, the dusty replica of laughter, and nodded. She says the ball won't do Farson any good without her. That is why it went dark at the sound of his voice. Jonas wondered how many others thought the ball was just for them as well. He wanted to wipe the sweat from his brow, but he kept his hands folded in front of him. He didn't dare look at his companions, only hoping they would follow his lead. She was balanced on the knife edge, both physically and mentally. Found the one it wants, he asked. What should we do about that? Take me with you, she said. Her expression was of gruesome need. She looked like a corpse that was trying to sneeze. Jonas realized she doesn't know she is dying. Thank the gods for that. She goes on to say, take the ball, but take her with as well, and so will go with Farson and become a soothsayer, and nothing will stand before them.
Oh man, yeah. So she's willing to ultimately uproot everything and just go with the ball.
I mean, makes sense. She's so obsessed with it.
Yeah, it does make sense, but it's also that's a huge thing because like we saw that she grew up in this town. So
yeah, that's the thing that we have to remember. We've talked about this before. She's not Sylvia Pinston just coming to this town and being a witch. She grew up here and became a witch.
Yeah, so that's crazy that she's willing to just throw everything away, including that she's probably far more like viewed in this town than she would be elsewhere. So it's crazy.
Looks like a corpse that is trying to sneeze. What a description from King here.
Yeah, indeed. He thinks that she is dying, and it sure seems like it, but honestly, I have my doubts.
Dude, reminds me too much of like Smeagol and Golem. Like, it can look like shit and still live. So.
Yeah, but Jonas wouldn't necessarily
he wouldn't
know that.
He wouldn't know that. Yeah, absolutely.
But like from in my mind, I'm like, I don't believe that.
Yeah,
I just don't.
All right, Jonas agrees, but also tells her that Farson makes the final decision, not him. She agrees. Jonas says, now give me the ball. She lowered it slowly, but Jonas still didn't think it was safe, even cradled. He did breathe a little bit easier. She shuffled forward, and he had to control the urge to gig his horse back from her. He bent over in the saddle with his hands out. She looked up at him, her old eyes shrewd behind their crusted lids. One of them drew down in a conspirator's wink. She says she knows his mind and that he is thinking, I will take the ball and draw my gun and kill her. What harm could that cause? Isn't that true? Yet there would be harm if you kill me, she says. The ball will never shine for Farson again if you do. And will he let you live if you bring his toy back and discovers that it is broken? Jonas had already considered this and told her that they had a bargain. She will go west with the ball unless she dies on the trail, dies by the trail some night. She cackles and says she is better than she looks, and there are years left before the clock runs down. Jonas thinks she is wrong about that. He keeps his peace, still holding his hands out for the ball.
Yeah. Again, I agree with her. I think she still has plenty of life in her. She might be near death if she were a normal person, but as a witch, I think she looks far worse than she actually is.
Yeah.
That's just, I don't trust it.
Yeah, this is not how I expected the confrontation to go. Is this just because Jonas is worked up over what Roland said?
I mean, partially. Yeah, probably. And he overlooked it.
Yeah.
So he's going to be handling this different than he probably would have.
Exactly. If he had given it an ounce of thought, a time, 5 minutes to think about.
Yeah.
For a moment longer, she held on to it. Their arrangement had been made, and both sides agreed, but she still struggled to let it go. He was still holding out his hands patiently, saying nothing. With a sigh of relief, she finally put the ball in his hands. The instant it passed into his hands, an ember of pink light pulsed deep in its depths of the glass. A throb of pain drove into Jonas's head, and a shiver of lust coiled in his balls. From a great distance, Jonas heard DePape and Reynolds cocking their pistols. Jonas said to put them away. Reynolds starts to protest, and Rhea cackles that they thought they were going to double-cross her. Good thing Jonas is in charge because he knows something they don't. Jonas did know something, all right. The ball was dangerous. It could take him in a blink if it wanted, and in a month he would look like the witch. Scrawny, rattled with sores, and too obsessed to care.
Yeah, the immediate effect it has on him is further proof of how powerful it is. It also shows how powerful Rhea is, that she's lived with it for months and still able to give it up here.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's crazy. And also, so the Coffin Hunters thought it was a double cross, logical thinking.
Yeah, they were ready to make their play. Just they thought that's what Jonas wanted.
Yeah.
The ball is seriously powerful. Jonas is not weak. We know that, and he can tell already that it would take him just like that. Like literally, he says like in a moment's notice, it would just take him.
Yeah. Yeah.
So going on, put them away, he shouts at DePape and Reynolds. They glanced at each other and then holstered their guns. Jonas asked Rhea for the bag that the ball came in and then the box that the bag goes in. She said that the bag and box, there is a bag and a box, but that won't stop it from taking him if it wants him. She looked at Reynolds and said there is a cart in her shed and a pair of good gray goats to pull it. Even as she spoke to Reynolds, her eyes were drawn back to the ball. Jonas noticed this. Noticed that it is how his eyes kept wanting to go back to it as well. Reynolds says that she doesn't give him orders. Jonas says, no, but I do. His eyes dropped to the ball, and he both wanted and feared pink spark of life deep inside. Nothing. Cold and dark. He dragged his eyes back to Reynolds and said, get the cart.
Yeah, I'm not sure the boxer bag help, hence why why Farson keeps it far from him.
Absolutely. That's why he sends it away and only uses it sparingly.
Yeah.
And my note here is it's already got him.
Yeah.
It's already got him.
Yeah.
And then imagine being Reynolds and DePape here. You think you're coming to get the ball, but get confronted by a decaying witch, and your leader makes you bring her with you.
Yeah. Not good. All right, we got one last short subchapter, subchapter 12. So Reynolds heard the buzzing from the flies before he slipped through the shed's sagging doors and knew immediately that Rhea's goats had finished their days of pulling. They laid bloated and dead in their pens, legs sticking up, and their eye sockets squirming with maggots. It was impossible to know for sure when Rhea stopped feeding and watering them, but at least a week, judging by the smell. He thought she was too busy watching what was in the ball to bother, and he wondered why she was wearing that dead snake around her neck. But told himself he did not want to know. He saw the cart, which was painted black with gold designs on it. It looked like a medicine show wagon to him, or maybe a hearse. That's a fun thought. He pulled it out as fast as he could. DePape could do the rest. Hitch his horse to the cart, and haul the old stinking woman's freight to wherever. Rhea came out of her hut with the drawstring bag and delivered that it was delivered in, and she asked a question that Reynolds had been thinking. Jonas said to seafront to begin with, and at least until the party was over tomorrow. Rhea agreed and said that she had never been to seafront. She approached Jonas's horses, who shied away from her, and opened the bag. And Jonas thought for a moment and dropped the ball in. She said mayhaps she could show Thorin something in the ball that would interest him very much. Jonas said that if he met him, or if she met him, it would be in a place where magic was no longer needed to see that far. She smiled and said she believed that the mayor had met with an accident. Jonas said could be. She giggled, and it turned into a full-throated cackle. She was cackling as they drew out of her yard. So... yeah, and then R.I.P. Ermont. One last call out there.
Fuck that. The poor goats. They didn't do anything wrong.
I mean, goats are generally demonic in most movies and stuff. So
Not in this instance, they're not.
Rhea's goats are not a surprise. She's not even taking care of herself, let alone animals. I think Musty is only alive because cats can be somewhat self-reliant than a penned-up animal. Her cart also looks like a medicine cart or hearse. That fits.
Right.
Man, I'm glad that Thorin is dead. Of course, Rhea would expose Roland and Susan's relationship to the worst possible person.
Yeah, and having him and Roland in captivity right now would be very, very bad.
Yeah, very bad. Indeed.
It does make me nervous that Rhea survived.
Yeah, I was hoping that again, first time reading it, I was like, fuck yeah, this is the end of her. Like, as this scene played out. And then, nope, turns out not, unfortunately. So, let's see.
David says sheep go to heaven, goats go to hell.
He also earlier said, I'm fascinated with the idea of who the witch was when she was young.
Yeah.
And I guess that's only assuming there's actually a witch in every town. Maybe she just had to grow into that role. And
well, I mean, they make it sound like the Coos is kind of like the witch's coven kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, the Coos. But that's also the location, like geography, so.
Yeah.
Brocky says, I know, right? I have often thought a Rhea backstory would be amazing.
Only if it, was, I don't know. I would want to see absolute terrible things happen to her the whole time because she's just the worst. I mean, Ermot's great.
No, he's not.
She's been terrible this whole thing. She was nasty from the very first time we saw her.
Just like Ermot.
And then Agamorphy Ball says fresh meat. Indeed. So, but that is it for this episode. Let's go ahead and hit the outro stuff real quick. If you want to subscribe to us on any podcasting delivery service of your choice, we'd appreciate that. You can stream us on Spotify, Amazon Music, or Audible. You can join us live here at youtube.com/DarkTowerPalaver. Of course, if you could like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications, we'd appreciate that. Also, the show notes at darktowerpalaver.com. There's no show notes for this episode, but that is the hub for all things Dark Tower Palaver. If you want to support the show, you can do that at patreon.com/DarkTowerPalaver. The hangout is before next episode, and we are going to be talking The Stand. So Part 1, indeed. And if you want to email the show or contact the show, send us your Ermot stuff. Send it Peter's direction.
Right? Show at darktowerpalaver.com. Find us on Threads and Instagram, Dark Tower Palaver, all one word, no spaces. Then check us out on Blue Sky. It's at darktowerpalaver.bsky.social. And then we're also on Twitter. It's at darktowerpod. That's at darktowerpod. Facebook.com/darktowerpalaver is where you find us there. And then tpublic.com/users/darktowerpalaver to get yourself some merchandise.
Yes, indeed. And we will be back in a fortnight, which will be our next roundtable in August.
Yeah.
Which is crazy that it's already August almost. But, but we will sign off, as we always do, by saying long days and pleasant nights.
Long days and pleasant nights, folks.
All right, everyone. Thank you guys for joining us in the chat. It's always great to have you guys part of the show, being part of the conversation. I see a moist and a snake emoji there from Baraki. Thank you for that. Love that. You guys are awesome, and we will see you guys in a few minutes for Geekery Abides. For Geekery Abides, if you join us over there. If not, we will see you in a fortnight for the next roundtable. So, see you guys.